Good morning. Firstly, a welcome to all members who have logged into the virtual mini plenary session. Let's observe a moment for silent prayer or meditation.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitutes a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone and where connectivity permits, connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up their hand to raise a point of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the Chair to members requesting to speak. When using the virtual system, members are, however, urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. Lastly, I wish to remind you that we are meeting in a mini plenary session, and therefore any decision that needs to be taken will be taken in a full plenary session of the Assembly. Honourable members, the first item on the order paper is a subject for discussion in the name of the Honourable A M van Zyl on the role of Parliament in strengthening accountability and transparency in municipalities to curb corruption, improve financial management, and ensure reliable service delivery for all South Africans. To introduce the topic, the Honourable van Zyl.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Municipalities are the closest sphere of government to the people, entrusted to deliver basic services like water, sanitation, refuse removal, roads, and electricity. But today, residents experience the absolute opposite. In cities and towns across our beautiful country, taps run dry, sewage runs down streets, refuse forms hills on street corners, there are more potholes than road, and streetlights remain dark. These conditions are not by action, but by design, and as a direct result of cadre deployment, corruption, financial maladministration, and a devastating lack of consequence management in local government. The Auditor General's latest report should shock everyone. Only 16% of the 257 municipalities has received a clean bill of financial health. This means that most of the councils cannot account for how they spent your money. What is even more concerning is that the AG identified 285 cases of material irregularities, a total of 8.7 billion rand lost to financial mismanagement. This could have fixed kilometers of leaking water pipes, built thousands of potholes, or built vital infrastructure. To top it off, 113 municipalities adopted unfunded budgets. This is as good as promising residents services using monopoly money. House Chairperson, this crisis has a face. It is the elderly woman who waits for a water tanker delivery drinking water. It is the scholar who is forced to walk through raw sewage to get to school. And it is the small business owner who cannot keep the doors open because the municipality cannot pay the Eskom account. This House Chairperson is the indignity that our residents must endure while politically connected cadres loot what is meant for the poor. Honourable members, Parliament has a constitutional obligation to intervene. Section 55 of the Constitution imposes the right of Parliament to hold the executive to account for the use of public resources. Section 139 further requires the NCOP to scrutinise and approve interventions in failing municipalities. Section 154 makes it very clear that both provincial and national governments must strengthen and support municipalities. This is a duty that Parliament must ensure they fulfill. But let us be frank, these interventions will never succeed if implemented by cadres. We have seen municipalities that have been under national intervention for years, like Mangaung in the Free State, Makana in the Eastern Cape, and Mfuleni in Gauteng. In these municipalities, the same scenario presents itself. Services do not work. Why? Because ANC deploys politically connected cadres to fix what they themselves have broken. And there's no political goal from the ANC to do what is right. Members, we are not without tools. We have laws, but they are just paper if we do not enforce independent oversight. We, therefore, must use the Scopa and Cocter Committee to demand consequence management for those who are implicated in irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Ensure that Section 139 interventions are not used for political reasons, but to rescue collapsing councils. Ensure that municipal officials have integrity and the necessary skills through conducting skills and lifestyle audits. And as the DA has implemented in KZN, ensure an open tender process so residents can see where their money goes. House Chair, where the DA governs, we deliver for residents. Even President Cyril Ramaphosa this week acknowledged that DA-led municipalities, such as the City of Cape Town and Stellenbosch, are well run, and his colleagues could learn from these DA municipalities. Thank you for speaking the truth, Mr. President. While DA governments receive awards from the Auditor General, in the ANC-led municipalities, funds for basic service delivery are feeding troughs for fat cats. Parliament must not allow for this. Parliament must decide where he stands. This debate isn't about abstract numbers. It is about restoring dignity to millions of South Africans. South Africans deserve better governments, applauded for not stealing. South Africans deserve better governments with open opportunities for all South Africans to achieve their highest dreams. The DA's vision is for that South Africa, and through this Parliament, we can help make it happen. Let us act now. South Africans deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Dr. Mkhize.
Thank you, House Chairperson and honourable members. I welcome this debate to look at the responsibility of this House to fix local government, eliminate dysfunctionality, poor governance, and eradicate administrative irregularities and corruption, which result in poor service delivery, by us ensuring accountability, consequence management, and creating a culture of efficiency, professionalism, and good governance. In this obligation assigned to the National Assembly, we have to take responsibility. At the National Assembly, we can ill afford petty politicking and point scoring because the lives of our people are at stake. Thus, ensuring effective service delivery to our people is our primary responsibility, for which we were elected as public representatives, irrespective of party political affiliation. The people of South Africa and their leaders, who were architects of this democracy, envisaged a unitary state which is inclusive of local government sphere, working in cooperation with other spheres of government at national and provincial level in a coordinated way. Following the 1993 Local Government Transitional Act that abolished local authorities, the new program, the new system of local government integrated municipalities was actually entrenched in year 2000. The 1996 Constitution, final Constitution of the Republic, shaped the entirety of government machinery that we see today. It assigned roles and responsibilities for the legislative, executive, and judicial arms of the states across the three spheres. This means that the National Assembly cannot, in all honesty, cast the blame only to other arms and spheres of the state without its own introspection and taking responsibility for the correction of all challenges in service delivery. The African National Congress participated in these processes to restore dignity of the people, guided by the Freedom Charter, which is 70 years this year, which espouses the ethos of the people shall govern. The white paper on local government adopted in 1998 gave us a blueprint of the local government which is accountable and autonomous, and it assumed also that this will have an ability to create local economic development, to eliminate poverty, unemployment, and put end to inequality. The wall-to-wall local government system was based on assumption made that on how it would operate. So the Municipal Systems and Structures Act were used to deal with the challenges that were envisaged. 30 years down the line, we're finding that many assumptions we made had not turned out as previously assumed. Uneven economic development have resulted in poor municipalities struggling to survive for lack of economic base to generate revenue. These municipalities have become financially distressed and unviable and cannot survive on their own. Community dissatisfaction results in public protests because of dilapidated infrastructure and poor service delivery, and these municipalities are not able to attract or retain professional skills. Now, all of this means now we have to look at the reviewing of the funding formula of the municipalities, as well as support given to the district to assist in the expenditure on the infrastructure. Good governance and functional municipalities were actually presumed to be the automatic attributes of all municipalities that were capable of optimal revenue collection. But we have found that this has not been the case at this stage. Only 16% of the municipalities are not dysfunctional. This therefore means service delivery has continued to deteriorate in many municipalities, whether the small or metropolitan or rural local municipalities have all been affected. Major cities have with huge amounts of revenue have still got problems of water losses, inefficient water provision, and such as in Swane, where there was cholera and raw sewage is spilling on the streets in various municipalities, risking the lives of children who are playing, with a lot of contamination, such as in Fuleni. All of this and poor economic performance have resulted in unplanned urban migration and a proliferation of informal settlement by poor, unemployed at the center of town. This has strained a lot of infrastructure, and therefore the municipalities cannot all account for or even pay for the water and electricity losses that has resulted there. The municipalities are not immune. Metropolitan municipalities are also not immune. They've got the old formerly white elitist suburbs on the one side, but they are also surrounded by shanty shacks where the densely populated, filthy environment, which has got lots of diseases and lack of safe water and lack of safe drinking water, and also pets roaming all around. This is the same whether it's city of Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Mangaung, Ekurhuleni. All of them cannot actually stand out as proud paragons of post-apartheid egalitarian society. So the National Assembly must avoid the temptation of falling prey to partisan public relations exercises and political marketing that ignores the reality faced our people. There's still a huge amount of problem with a number of metros, even though they're supposed to have a better income generation capacity. All of these are reflected in the Auditor General's report, which was showing very bleak outcome, showing that the persistent poor financial management with a few pockets of improvement, 35% of municipalities with qualified opinion, and although there was a reduction of disclaimers, but there's still the 14 that now have disclaimers. We cannot use that information for oversight. So all of these municipalities are running huge debts to Eskom, to water boards, to SARS, to pension funds, and so on. Most of these are actually found in the Free State, Gauteng, and Northwest. And then in turn, of course, they are owed by the departments in the national and provincial government. Now, for this, faced with this reality, the Speaker of Parliament, the House Committee, and the portfolio committees have had to approach this for National Assembly to take responsibility, because when it comes to enforcing accountability and reverse deteriorating trends on audit outcome and pervasive dysfunctionality, the buck stops with the National Assembly. So a joint oversight program has been designed for the standing committees on SCOPA and Auditor General. And this has gone to the various provinces, using intergovernmental relations, cooperative governance, and issues of legality to guide a collaborative approach that has ensured that there's more focus on consequence management and more emphasis on accountability, involving the political leadership, the Speaker, the Premier, the members of Executive Council, and of COGTA and Finance, all of whom have had to be involved as we're discussing this issue in the various provinces. We started with the Northwest and went to the Free State and Gauteng. We shall be proceeding now to the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and others. There has been good cooperation on the other provinces except for Gauteng, which really showed no interest. But we were able to see a lot of examples of public servants trying their best, but hampered by poor leadership and poor resource constraint, and despite their determination to serve. But the committee also uncovered a lot of distasteful details of financial malfeasance, corruption, incompetence, political infighting, factions, rogue behavior. All of these have resulted in disastrous service delivery, and therefore even the communities also raised a lot of accusations of nepotism, all of which they cannot be allowed to persist under the watch of this parliament. And so in all this municipal engagement, a set of issues were identified for attention and for correction by municipalities under the strong monitoring of the provincial government with definitive targets and timelines to correct a number of issues and report to Parliament at the provincial and national level, focusing on issues of turnaround of municipalities, strengthening financial systems and control, investigations and processing of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, uprooting corruption, referral to disciplinary processes and criminal investigations, accountability, and consequence management. Parliament will hold the executive accountable for ensuring disincentives are brought to end the culture of impunity and restoration of good, clean governance and uprooting corruption. Much of the committee's experience will assist in making proposals in the white paper on local government review process and other bills that are currently being processed. I commend the entire contingent of the National Assembly members at provincial and level as well for the forthright, professional, non-partisan approach that they've used during the visit. Their conduct improved the image of Parliament in the dignified manner that they approach their task. National Parliament is taking direct responsibility for accountability on all spheres of government. The African National Congress has this week taken a bold step of reflection, acknowledging the challenges faced by local government and committed its own members to acknowledge the challenges and show commitment to fix the wrongs for the benefit of our people. Out of this honest process, the ANC has come up with a master plan for local government and a call to all sectors of society to act in a coordinated approach with structures of government to improve the state of local government beyond political party lines, beyond race,
Honorable
class,
Dr.
and
Mkhize.
other divide. Let us all strive for a working local government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now recognize the Honorable Manye.
Thank you, Chairperson. Both the DA and the ANC have really touched on peripheral secondary issues. For us as MK Party, we'll go to the core. The MK Party raises Parliament's role in accountability, transparency, and curbing corruption, financial management, and service delivery as the key issue. We want to raise issues of structural failures that are actually enabled by Parliament, which undermine in particular rural municipalities and service delivery. The first thing is the issue of equitable share allocation. That's where it all begins. Parliament sets the allocation. Municipalities, in particular in rural municipalities, get a meager 9% equitable share of the budget. Yet this is where the rubber hits the road and you squander all the money in the provinces and so on. This is totally inadequate and irresponsible, as it were. Rural municipalities in particular have no extra revenue streams from business or property rates. Unlike metros, they rely almost entirely on their national allocations. Underfunding leaves them incapable of meeting basic obligations. The next thing is the issue of differential pay scale, which is a big flaw. Pay scale differences between rural and metro professionals. It's the framework set by Parliament that results in huge pay disparities despite equal work. When a job profile requires a CA, as it were, and then you go and pay a CA in Durban and Joburg and Cape Town more than you would pay for somebody that must do that same work in the rural areas, you're actually looking for trouble. Skilled professionals won't leave metros for low-paying rural posts. Consequence of this is that municipalities employ bookkeepers instead of chartered accountants. They employ apprentices instead of seasoned engineers. All of this then, because of the mess that's going to come out of that, then they are forced to outsource. And when they outsource, then you get issues of professionals from the market that overprice their services. And then you have all these kinds of problems. that we have of too much expenditure on outsourcing, when in fact it's an issue that has been created by Parliament. Outsourcing is costly, it fragments accountability and undermines institutional memory. Parliament could fix this with better allocation and fair pay frameworks. Then the issue of corruption and capacity. The issue is not only about corruption. Many officials are working diligently against all odds. Corruption and mismanagement thrive in scarcity and desperation. Parliament has the power to change conditions, but Parliament has failed. Without resources and professionals, accountability is symbolic. What is to be done? Parliament must act on 3 fronts. 1, adequate resourcing. Adequate resourcing. In other words, the equitable share to municipalities must change. We have been this issue of this formula.
Honorable Manye.
Municipalities 9%.
Honorable Manye. I think it would assist if you maybe switch off your video, unless the problem is on my side.
We all get the same problem, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Mkhize. Honorable, maybe ICT can in the meantime assist to switch off the video of the Honorable Manye. And I think he has now unfortunately dropped off the platform. Is there perhaps another member of the MK who can assist? Give it a few seconds to see whether Honorable Manye returns. Okay, I think in the meantime, honorable members, as to not delay procedures, we must proceed to the next speaker. And if the Honorable Manye reconnects, or if one of his colleagues maybe at a later stage can conclude his input, we will return to him. Honorable Labeskagni.
Honourable Chairperson, the Parliament's role to strengthen accountability and transparency is spelled out in the Constitution and in various pieces of legislation, articulating clearly the relationship between the Executive and members of Parliament. As a watchdog, it is Parliament's mandate to ensure good governance through curbing corruption, improving financial management, and ensuring reliable services for all South Africans. Parliament fulfills this mandate through portfolio committees to interface directly with the concerns of residents. With respect to local government, these committees include COCTA, water and sanitation, and human settlements, to name a few. As parliamentarians, our role first starts with scrutinizing the strategic plans and budgets of government departments. These are more text on a page or PowerPoint presentations, but directly speak to how government will either improve or regress your life. We also have the duty of probing departments on what they are doing with your money. We ask departmental officials questions in committee, as well as the opportunity to hold relevant ministers accountable through oral questions, so we can continuously track their performance. When there is good performance, it is lauded. However, when South Africans are being ripped off, it is our duty to hold feet to the fire, at least at the DA. And what we continue to uncover as DA parliamentarians is deeply concerning. Through DA parliamentarian questions, we have uncovered Due to ongoing sewage spills in communities, the Department of Water and Sanitation has issued directives to municipalities or put them on terms 160 times over the last couple of years. When the DA followed up with COCTA on what is being done about this, not only were they unaware of the directives, but remained under the delusion that the DDM will solve these issues. Newsflash, while costing South Africans 115 million thus far, the DDM has made poor municipalities across our country even poorer. As parliamentarians, we have the mandate of being on the ground to see for ourselves the work of local governments. And man, have ANC cadres broken a whole lot. The Free State has arguably become the worst governed municipalities in the country, with no clean audit in sight for years. What the ANC then decided to do is recycle 6 of their cadres in the province. These cadres have refused orders by Lutuli House, showing the catch-22 of cadre deployment. Cadres eating do not want to share with their fellow cadres. In Gauteng, which has an infrastructure backlog in the hundreds of billions of rands, all they have as solutions are a bomb squad and presidential task teams effectively running the province from the union buildings. Nonetheless, despite presidential intervention, there is no demonstrable improvement. Gauteng now is without water, and Breë Street being fixed 2 years later is somehow supposed to be an achievement. We have 3 spheres of government. When a municipality fails, it is the province's mandate to step in, and only when the province has exhausted all its powers should national government intervene. Gauteng has not followed this. For his own political prospects, the Premier is protecting his cadres. After voters delivered a decisive mandate in our previous elections, the presidency is now trying to save the day. It will not work. However, as a cadre, protecting a cadre who is protecting another cadre is not accountability. When honest, genuine people in Gauteng try to do what is right for the country, they are murdered in the line of duty. There have been numerous political assassinations in Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg. When the DA asked COCTA what was being done about this, we were directed to SAPS, as if COCTA is not empowered to stop this through mandatory skills and lifestyle audits. When we were in the Northwest, we witnessed one ANC council literally being run by rogue security guards due to a factual battle within the ANC. Nothing about service delivery, nothing about residents, but rather a contest of may the best cadre win. Parliament is empowered through the Constitution and various pieces of legislation, but these mechanisms are toothless if there is no concerted effort to act. As the DA, we are doing all that we can to ensure poor results do not go unpunished, but we need other parties, including the ANC, to put country over party. South Africans deserve way better than this. After the President's endorsement of the DA recently, our colleagues at the ANC can choose to duck for cover or smell the coffee. When we talk about DA delivery, we are not patting ourselves on the back, but rather reminding of what the standard ought to be. A clean audit should be expected. Running taps in streets without sewage should be the basic standard. Refuse collection weekly should be the standard. Municipalities using your rates to pay Eskom and water boards should be the standard. Let us not fall into the trap of celebrating mediocrity. I again implore my fellow members to stand with the DA in getting our municipalities back on track. The time for Dololo service delivery must be over. The time for Dololo infrastructure maintenance must be over. The time for Dololo consequence management must be over. It is within our power to change things for the better and improve the lives of all South Africans. To my colleagues at the ANC, for the greater good, swallow your pride and emulate what the DA is doing. The DA leads with ethics, the rule of law, a professional civil service, non-racialism, and government resources being closest to the people. Join us, or South Africans will continue to punish you, and you will only have yourselves to blame for breaking South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Manye, I am informed that you have returned to the platform after dropping off due to technical difficulties. You can resume your speech. You had technically 6.5 minutes left, but I'll give you 7 minutes to maybe just pick up slightly earlier to when you left, because the audio was not of good quality before you dropped off even. And you are welcome to switch off your or keep your camera off as well. May I also ask other members who are not about to speak to please switch off their cameras when you move around, and sometimes you don't unfortunately also have the parliamentary background. It takes over the screen, the video feed, so to speak, during the broadcast. Thank you. Honorable Manye, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Am I audible?
You are, and you're welcome to switch off. Maybe
Yeah,
that will assist.
I think it's the problem with Parliament, but let me proceed quickly. Thank you very much, Chair. I don't have a long speech. My speech is short because we are not here to waffle as the MK party. We know the issue. The issue is a simple one. Like I said, that Parliament must take accountability for this. We've been raising these matters with FFC, with the Budget Office, and with at SCOF and everywhere, that the issue of equitable share allocation is actually the main problem. So everything else, this blame game of the ANC and the DA is really not taking the country anywhere. We're actually tired of this as the country. We can't have every day ANC and the DA, they keep blaming each other, but they are bad partners in this so-called GNU. We say for us as the MK party, here are the solutions. Firstly, we're saying that there must be adequate resourcing instead of busy bickering between the two coalition partners. There must be adequate resourcing to increase the equitable share to municipalities. In particular, rural municipalities must get a lot more money, even more than metros, because metros still have businesses, still have rates and taxes and all of these things which municipalities don't have, but municipalities are expected to deliver at the same kind of level as it were. The second thing we're saying as MK party is the issue of professional capacity. You can't have a situation where you pay a CA in Joburg, Cape Town, and Durban 3 million, and then somehow you pay one at Ikopo and one Komhlabia Lingana 800, and then somehow you think you're making sense. And this is all within Parliament's realm to correct this, but Parliament seems oblivious to this fact. Proactive oversight, we argue as MK party, that it starts with empowering municipalities before punishing them with failures. As a government in waiting, we want to conclude as follows, that rural citizens in particular will keep suffering unless Parliament addresses the structural issues, not this bickering that we're hearing. Number two, accountability and transparency depend on resourcing and capacity. Thirdly, we're saying Parliament's role is not just demanding accountability, it must enable it as it were. It can't just play a spectator and then begin to say things are not happening when itself it is at the center of creating these structural issues. The failure of underfunding, the failure of underpay, the reliance on outsourcing are the actual core problems that are causing this. Obviously, when they get to corrupt officials, that becomes even worse. It's only by addressing the root causes can service delivery actually increase. You can't have a situation where in affluent towns, rubbish collection can happen even twice a week, but in other areas, because of funding, it happens once in a fortnight. And then we wonder why there's rubbish everywhere. It's all structural issues. And all of these things, the coalition partners have got no capacity to see these things, because all they're about is about themselves. The country is now ready for a government that is serious about the real issues. The country is ready for the MK party, and the MK party is ready to run this country. We've been making very serious inroads as the MK party in municipalities. The reception that the MK party is getting is really heartwarming. And we want to say to the people of South Africa, keep voting the MK party. This is the party that knows the problems. This is a party that is going to change issues at a structural level instead of this bickering that we're hearing here. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Parliament is constitutionally obliged to develop legislation and to hold the executive to account. The Constitution creates a very necessary balancing act between the three organs of the state. Parliament must make laws and hold the executive to account. The executive must implement laws and develop policy. The judiciary must ensure that Parliament and the executive perform their duties within the bounds of the Constitution. All these organs of the state are co-equal, and Parliament is not only here to rubber stamp executive actions. Sadly, this Parliament and preceding parliaments before it has reduced this House to be a mere defense mechanisms of constitutional delinquents in the executive. From 2014 to 2018, the majority party defended the disastrous reign of Jacob Zuma and reduced this House to a laughingstock. We witnessed elderly members of this House telling the whole nation that a swimming pool built at the taxpayers' money was a fire pool. We saw members of this House defending the use of army base, a national key point, as an entertainment area for Zuma's Indian friends and benefactors. They all pretended not to know all of the Zuma's sins after we removed him from the power. But they continued from 2019 to date, and now with the assistance of the Democratic Alliance, the Pan-Africanist Congress, and all other insignificant parties, this House is still used to protect criminals in the executive. General Mkhwanazi came here to this very same House to report Senzo Mchunu capture of the police for his own criminal intentions. This House defended Mchunu and left Mkhwanazi to his own devices. When evidence of Mr. Ramaphosa's criminal activities at Palapal was presented by a committee led by former Chief Justice Ngobo, was presented in this House, calling for establishment of an impeachment committee, this very same House rejected such evidence, thereby shielding a potential criminal president from accountability. The Democratic Alliance earlier stated that because they are now in the gravy train, they will no longer pursue the Palapala matter. When we submitted letters to Ethics Committee relating to the lies told by the Minister Enje Motshekga in relation to the corruption at Military One Hospital, that committee rejected our complaints in total. When we wrote to the same committee to investigate the lies told by Mr. Senzo Mchunu in relation to his knowledge and relationship with Brown Mkhotsi, that committee also ignored these complaints. When the very same House passed a motion to close the Israel embassy in Pretoria, it soon thereafter succumbed to threat from the Zionist thugs and ignored the implementation of that resolution, it showed the entire country that Parliament is not here to safeguard our democratic gains, but as an institution, it is available to the highest bidder. Chairperson, the erosion of public trust in Parliament and other institutions of the state is a self-inflicted wound. Parliament must be defended from the thugs now running the country. We must restore Parliament's role as the center of democratic participation and expression of the marginalized voices of our people. This must we do without any fear or favor, lest we reduce Parliament into one of the many enablers of corruption in this country. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Nkosi Buthelezi.
Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Good morning. Due maybe also to the network weakness here, I will switch off my video, if you may indulge me.
You're welcome, Honorable Member.
The Inkatha Freedom Party welcomes this important debate because ensuring strong and effective local government is an urgent, shared priority for us all. Good governance and reliable service delivery are at the heart of our constitutional promise, and Parliament has a vital role to play in supporting and strengthening these commitments. Honorable members, Section 152 of our Constitution reminds us that local government exists to provide democratic and accountable government for communities and to ensure the provision of services in a sustainable manner. Across our country, there are many examples of municipalities striving to fulfill this mandate under challenging conditions. Yet, As the Auditor General's reports continue to highlight, there remain areas where financial management and service delivery can be further improved. These are opportunities for us collectively to work with municipalities to build trust and strengthen public confidence. We believe that Parliament has both the constitutional mandate and the moral duty to act as an active guardian of accountability and transparency. Our oversight role should be proactive and supportive, helping to identify risks early, sharing best practice, and ensuring continuous improvement. Firstly, Parliament must implement stronger oversight mechanisms to hold municipalities accountable and to follow up on their reports. Oversight cannot end with the tabling of documents. Consequent management mechanisms must also be implemented so that agreed corrective actions are not merely noted but are acted upon and monitored. Secondly, real-time monitoring mechanisms will help everyone act sooner. We support the broader rollout of MFMA reporting tools that give Parliament access to up-to-date financial information. Timely data allows for early detection of challenges and, importantly, early intervention in partnership with the municipalities. Thirdly, Parliament should continue to back the Auditor General's enhanced mandate, ensuring that binding remedial actions are not only enforced, but also accompanied by the technical assistance needed for implementation. Accountability must be coupled with capacity building so that officials and political office bearers have the skills and resources to succeed. Fourthly, public participation and openness are crucial. Parliament should champion measures that make municipal budgets, procurement processes, and performance indicators easily accessible to residents. When communities can see how resources are allocated and spent, they become partners in protecting those resources. Honorable members, the deliberate involvement of Amakosi and traditional leaders in service delivery at all levels of planning, implementation, and monitoring is essential. Traditional leaders are close to our communities and can help ensure that services reach even the most rural and marginalized households. Their inclusion strengthens legitimacy, cultural sensitivity, and community buy-in. Accountability is not only about consequence management, it is also about enabling success. Parliament must continue to work with COGTA, National Treasury, and municipalities to strengthen technical and administrative support. This approach recognizes that well-resourced and well-trained municipal teams are key to lasting improvement. Where wrongdoing occurs, there must be, of course, be appropriate consequences, including links between parliamentary oversight, law enforcement, and the National Prosecuting Authority. But our primary objective is to prevent problems before they arise and to help municipalities deliver the reliable services that our people deserve. Honorable Speaker, we believe that our strengthening accountability and transparency is both a constitutional and ethical imperative. Reliable water supply, proper waste management, and safe sanitation are not just technical services. They are essential to the dignity and well-being of every South African. We must move from words to action. Let us implement stronger oversight mechanisms and force consequence management, deliberately involve Amakosi and traditional leaders in every level of service delivery, and empower our communities to be active partners in local government. In this way, together, we can safeguard public resources, improve financial management, and deliver the dependable services that fulfill the promise of our democracy. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now recognize the Honorable Basson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Speaker, honourable members, fellow South Africans. As the Patriotic Alliance, I ask today what millions of South Africans are asking. Why does corruption still thrive in our municipalities? Why are people still living without water, electricity, or housing, while billions vanish each year? We receive report after report, irregular spending, collapsed services, delivery, and fraudulent tenders. Yet, who is being held accountable? Too many municipalities are failing, not just because of poor governance, but because corruption goes, or worse, are complicit. Parliament must act. Consequence management is not optional, it's urgent. We must enforce accountability without fear or favour, because without it, there will be no change. The DA prides itself with excellent run municipalities, but forget about areas in Cape Town where they govern, like Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Mitchells Plain, Manenberg, Bothahevel, Hanover Park, Bishop's Lafus. Are these areas not worthy of clean streets and service delivery? The PA is grateful that the voters are turning PA. We will ensure service delivery to everyone in all areas, regardless of their race or where they live. All South Africans are watching. They are demanding action. And we must deliver, not just in speeches and empty promises, but by justice and real service delivery, the PA way. Everyone must realize, kom ons gaan grond toe. Kom ons gaan hoor, wat soek die stemmers? Wat is die probleem? En kom ons maak reg, terwyl ons nog 'n tyd het. Ons beklei hierdie geveg nie vir onsself nie, maar vir ons kinders. Ons los 'n legacy agter, sodat hulle ook 'n land kan hê wat hulle huis kan noem. Suid-Afrika behoort aan almal. Geen nasie, geen ras, geen geloof moet agterbly. Ek dank u.
Dankie. Die volgende spreker is die agbare Wessels.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Let me start by welcoming and thanking the Honourable van Zyl for sponsoring this important debate. The reality is, Honourable Chairperson, that for many, many years, the Auditor General reports on local government have been showing the decay in terms of service delivery, in terms of financial management, lack of consequence management, and all the other areas of concern. It's not something new. And what we have to address and what we have to be aware of is the fact that interventions are not working. The Honourable van Zyl mentioned the constitutional provisions that are there for interventions in failing municipalities. She also mentioned the fact that there's many municipalities under such national interventions, and there's also under provincial interventions in terms of Section 139 that are just not going the right direction. There's no improvement. Even municipalities and councils that have been disbanded and where re-elections took place, there's no improvement. And one of the biggest problems, Chairperson, is that when we just talk about accountability and when we use these phrases such as consequence management, we're not actually addressing the issues. When we look at the new powers of the AGSA in terms of material irregularities and issuing of debt certificates, we have to go and look at what legislative lacunas there currently are, which are preventing consequence management from actually occurring, and especially the recovery of lost public funds on municipal level. And one of the issues is the fact that there's a change of guard all the time on municipal level. Where an accounting officer transgresses, there's non-compliance, or there's even fraud and corruption, and alleged fraud and corruption. The issuing of a debt certificate is a futile exercise because of the fact that when it's discovered, there's a new accounting officer, there's a change, and the person can't be held responsible. We'll have to go and look as Parliament, as legislature, what we can do and what powers there are to ensure that someone can be held accountable even if they are not employed anymore in the position that they were when they transgressed. Because currently money is not being recovered and people are not facing the consequences. And that is one of the reasons, because of these changes that take place all the time. And that leads to the fact that the Public Audit Act, and in terms of the issuing of debt certificates, are not being enacted because of those changes. That is a power that can be used, but we'll have to go and look at legislature, how we can make it better, and how we can actually ensure that there's consequence management. Chairperson, people are suffering, and the Honourable Mkhize is correct. This is not a time for political advertising, but members have proven that they have fell trap to that. What we need is real solutions, and we need solutions so that interventions actually work. If one goes and look at the interventions that have taken place up until now, it has not worked. We need new solutions, and funding won't solve the problems. We need accountability. Let's use our powers as the national legislature to make the changes necessary. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Trollip.
Honourable Chairperson, South Africans are tired of excuses. They are tired of corruption, tired of mismanagement, and tired of municipalities that collapse while politicians look the other way. Local government is the sphere of government closest to the people, yet it has become the epicenter of failure, despite much sanctimony in this regard. Let us be blunt. Municipalities are not collapsing by accident. They are being looted. Year after year, the Auditor General tells us the same story. Billions lost to irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Yet nothing happens. Officials implicated in wrongdoing remain in office, and communities are left without water, electricity, or sanitation. Just this week, the ANC chairperson and the president told the councillors that they can sing, but when it comes to capacity, dololo. When it comes to water, dololo. When it comes to fixing potholes, dololo. What an indictment. Parliament cannot continue to rubber stamp reports while service delivery crumbles. Our role is not to sympathise with corruption. It is to stop it. That begins with enforcing consequence management. If you steal from the people, you must face criminal prosecution. If you abuse public office, you must be permanently disqualified from holding it again. Enough is enough. The Mkwanazi line has been drawn because this Parliament wouldn't draw the line. Chairperson, the Constitution is clear. Parliament must hold the executive accountable. That means we must demand answers from the Minister of Cooperative Governance and provincial MECs when and why municipalities collapse. Section 139 interventions must no longer be political theatre. They must deliver measurable results or be replaced with stronger action. Makanda in the Eastern Cape is no better after 3 endeavours of administration. Enoch Gijima is worse off after administrative intervention, and Lord alone knows what's going to happen in Knysna. These administration interventions are all ANC or GNU controlled, and failed cadres are being retreaded to become administrators, and we wonder why we fail. We must also reform the Municipal Finance Management Act and the Systems Act to close loopholes that protect the corrupt. I differ with Honourable Manyi. It's not about equitable share. Money is limited. It's all about corruption and incompetence. Procurement must be open and transparent with e-tender systems and community oversight so that no contract is awarded or is hidden in smoke-filled rooms and given over and over to cronies that should be blacklisted but aren't. Just this week, Action SA laid a complaint against Treasury with the Public Protector for not implementing the SIU recommendations around blacklisting. One blacklisting out of 467 recommendations. That is simply appalling, Chairperson. People like the well-connected Edwin Saudi, for example, continue to get contracts awarded to them despite a litany of incomplete and failed contracts, and he carries on with impunity. Honourable members, this is not simply a governance crisis, it's a betrayal of the democratic promise. Our people do not care for technical excuses or political infighting. All they care about is whether water flows from their taps, whether their lights stay on, and whether their refuse is collected. That is the true test of government. Action SA will not stand by while South Africans are failed by those who treat municipalities as personal piggy banks. We stand for accountability that bites, transparency that empowers communities, and service delivery that restores dignity. Parliament must find the courage to act, to clean out our own filthy stables as Hercules did the Aegean stables, especially as no political party has an outright majority in Parliament. Now is the time for us to fix this mess. We all expected better under the GNU dispensation, which has flattered only to deceive. It is now our collective responsibility to stand up and fix local government, or else the people will rise up against this parliament and against failed municipalities. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Troller. Is there a speaker on behalf of the ACDP in this debate? If not, then I call upon the UDM. Rise. Bosa. The ATM. Latelango Buake Moslampe de Reko.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the members of Parliament, greetings to Deputy Ministers and Ministers and the members of the Republic. Today we are called upon to debate a crucial subject of local government. This subject is often very sensitive given the fact that the current state of local government in our country is faced with many challenges, and as a result of that, people are beginning to lose confidence in government, as we all know that local government is the face of government. It is also sensitive because we are not merely debating for the sake of scoring political points. However, we are debating an institution designed to make the life of our people more better. Therefore, it is important that such debates must consider the fact that the politics should also consider that we are dealing with the people of the life of our people. Therefore, it is important that such debate should also move aside the fact of our differences in terms of politics, but focus on what we should give to our communities. We may have different views as each other about our political parties, but we should not lose sight of our main objective, which is championing the interest of our people through quality service delivery. For the ANC, politics is a vehicle towards democratic, non-sexism, non-racial, and prosperous South Africa. I open with these remarks to underscore the fact that reducing such an important subject to political party victories and failures reflect that some of us lack theoretical understanding of the importance of politics as a transformation tool of democracy that must safeguard the interests of our people rather than celebrating narrow political goals. Parliament in South Africa is made up of two houses. Each has its own roles and responsibilities that complement each other. This house, the National Assembly, represents the people, while the NCOP represents the interests of the provinces, with local government represented through SALGA. As Parliament, we are responsible for exercising oversight and ensuring that there are relevant systems in place for accountability, amongst other functions and relevant stakeholders. It is this House that is charged with such a huge and important responsibility, and we are the eyes and the ears of our people in this regard. The Portfolio Committee on COGTA, which I serve in, has for a number of years understood its work to be that of improving service delivery in local government, holding people accountable and ensuring that people of South Africa feel represented within the institutions of state, especially local government. It is known fact that beside our role, local government does not enjoy the full trust of the people. Often things only move when we as Parliament intervene and expose crisis. The public and honorable members would also seen that in the past few months and in the previous 6 administration, how we have carried out our work as the members of Parliament. We have elevated oversight to the level necessary to improve oversight and accountability in local government. Oversight visits have been non-partisan, non-biased, and we have ensured transparency and accountability. We have ensured that the truth is laid bare and the people have an opportunity to see for themselves how government spend their money. We do have a number of success stories that we can tell, such as Mirafong, where during our first visit they had a disclaimer audit opinion, and after our visit they then improved to qualified, which is not good enough but can be recorded as a success. We have Thabo Mofutsanyane, where there was political instability which affected service delivery deeply. And currently the situation has improved, although they still have challenges of service delivery. Take, for instance, our oversight visit in Free State. Many municipalities in the Free State are either governed by ANC or are hung municipalities. Although the Portfolio Committee on COGTA is chaired by an ANC senior member, no one would have known this fact because it did not matter which political parties governed the municipalities. What matters was the work of Parliament that had to be done. The PC oversight visit was conducted openly, and all the citizens and community members of the Free State and the country at large could see for themselves our work. The ANC leadership in the Free State thereafter took a decision to recall some councillors who were failing. This was also influenced by the work of the parliament that we did in Free State. Even though some of us are members of the ANC, we applauded these steps because incompetency must never be celebrated, even if it happens in our own corner. My emphasis here, honorable members, is that if we put aside our narrow political thinking, our work is bound to have impact. We have shown this through our oversight visit to different provinces. Another point to emphasize is the role played by petitions submitted to Parliament by communities. This is a fundamental pillar of our democracy. However, our desire as the ANC is that petitions should not be the order of the day. Councillors must be on the ground. They must be able to engage with the people as possible as often. Councillors must be the first point of contact. If the people are facing crisis, they must not wander or look for help where they have look for help far, but they must go to the people that they have elected to do the work for them. This year alone, we have received a number of petitions, and communities has engaged with us regarding those petitions, and we have seen things move. Most importantly, we have seen how people reacted after we have intervened, and this places Parliament as an institution at the center of the people and service delivery. We must ensure that we utilize our public constituency offices to strengthen oversight and improve service delivery. Parliament pays us to visit these offices, and we must use them to listen to the people, get closer to them, and resolve their challenges. This week, as we are debating here, the NCOP is having its local government week, and the NCOP delegation has visited the township of Gugulethu. The township was founded in 1958, housing migrant workers. It lies just on top of the Cape Town International Airport. No single person can deny that Gugulethu to date mirrors not only our shortcoming as government, but the perpetual separate development that defines Cape Town, which is one of the municipalities that discriminate its communities based on their material conditions, and the city approach on service delivery has divided the city into two. Those who have money live in a conducive, lavish life, and that is highly maintained through infrastructure services, while those who are unfortunate live in a shameful situation. What is happening in Gugulethu and other townships in the Western Cape is a clear indication of the result of neoliberal policy frameworks that prioritize money over justice, integration, and human dignity. Just recently, we have noted the news that the city of Cape Town is proposing to sell private companies and individual Camps Bay Library and land adjacent to it. This cannot happen when the land justice is still not achieved and people live in a crowded places. This form of government property disposal is one that has escalated property prices in Cape Town, allowing people to be homeless because they can't afford to buy houses due to this kind of development. I make these sentiments for not political scoring, but emphasize the importance of placing party interest over the people have also devastating effect that destroy the livelihood and kill the futures. This is a clarion call for all municipalities in our country to prioritize land justice, do away with racial planning and class planning, and move towards the people-centered urban planning. The president of SALGA has emphasized the past week that one of the challenges of corruption is the inclusion of private hand in the affairs of local government. This is not to say that private sector is inherently corrupt, but to say that the real interest of private sector is profit, not the people. And if it means being corrupt to achieve the goal of profit, we know what they will often choose. As the African National Congress, we recognize the challenges of local government. Our president has emphasized this fact. As Parliament, our role cannot be downplayed anymore. We need to work tirelessly, even beyond this House, to ensure that our people receive the service that they deserve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of Al Jamaa in this debate? The NCC? the UAT, Good Party? If not, then I recognize the Honorable Bateman.
Honourable House Chair, honourable members, fellow South Africans. In simple terms, the topic this morning is how we as Parliament can root out the corruption, the waste, and the breakdown in basic service delivery, which are rife in so many of our municipalities. One of the telling measures of how well a municipality is performing is the annual audit. Last week in this House, we discussed the Auditor General's report to Parliament in respect of 9 delinquent municipalities. According to the AG, the audit outcomes for these municipalities have remained largely unchanged over the years, highlighting persistent gaps in financial accountability, governance, and service delivery. Put simply, these local governments are badly run, don't deliver, aren't improving, and can't be trusted. And as we all know, these are not isolated cases. Of the 257 municipalities in South Africa, although the 9 may have been some of the worst, only 41 of the 257 received clean audits last year. And the total value of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure incurred by municipalities amounted to a staggering 235 billion rands. For perspective, this was more than double the entire budget of the South African Police Service for that year. So we have a problem that runs wide, and we have a problem that runs very deep. The reason why local governments are failing are varied, but at the heart, jobs have been awarded for political reasons, not necessarily on merit, because of corruption and also because there's very little accountability. To fix these problems, we need merit-based appointments and we need performance agreements for municipal managers and their direct reports. Those who consistently fail to deliver must be removed. And when there are financial irregularities, we need thorough consequence management, including criminal charges where appropriate. However, the question before this House today is not what the municipalities should be doing, but what we should be doing as Parliament to make sure that municipalities perform. And first and foremost, we need rigorous oversight of consequence management. In other words, as Parliament, we must make sure that there's follow-through whenever irregularities are reported. And this will require committees to work together in a systematic and in a coordinated way. So, for instance, we need SCOPA to draw attention to irregularities that are reported at local government level and to call delinquent municipalities to account. We need the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development to ensure that the Special Investigative Unit, the SIU, has the resources it needs to do its job and that it gets its job done. We need the Portfolio Committee on Police to make sure that the Hawks have adequate capacity and perform the necessary investigations as they ought. The Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development must also ensure that the National Prosecuting Authority, the NPA, is properly resourced and systematically secures convictions of corrupt officials. We need the Standing Committee on Appropriations to ensure that the SIU, the Hawks, and the NPA are properly funded to be able to perform their mandates. And then holding this all together, we need the Portfolio Committee on COGTA to receive quarterly updates on municipal consequence management. These reports should track every irregularity through the process from end to end, highlighting delays and bottlenecks all the way from the reporting of the irregularities in audit reports through to the disciplinary outcomes, the removal of non-performing or corrupt officials, criminal convictions, and the barring of corrupt suppliers and individuals. With a coordinated, systematic oversight mechanism in place like this, we can transform the culture of local government from one of impunity to accountability. As Parliament, there are also some other changes we should consider. For example, we need audit outcomes to be better publicized so that citizens are better able to hold their public representatives to account. We should require that the top management reports from the Auditor General are tabled at council meetings. National Treasury needs to be empowered to blocklist corrupt suppliers without waiting for requests from municipal accounting officers. We need to know who is benefiting from state contracts. And so we should mandate the public disclosure of the ultimate beneficial owners of the companies which win state contracts. We should review the local government fiscal framework to be more sensitive to different local government contexts. And finally, we should work to improve the stability of coalition governments. As the DA, we've proposed 2 amendments to the Municipal Structures Act. The first raises to 2% the threshold at which small parties can win council seats, and the second restricts frivolous motions of no confidence. However, there is a way to solve this crisis which is far more effective than all of these interventions combined, because at the heart of this crisis is leadership. With the right leadership, the turnaround of our municipalities will take place. As the Democratic Alliance, we are showing what can be done. A municipality run by the DA is 10 times more likely to receive a clean audit. 80% of DA-run municipalities received clean audits in 2024. 90% received unqualified audits. But this is not just about audit results. This is about strong governance. This is about accountability. This is about efficiency. And ultimately, it's all about service delivery, laying a foundation for economic growth and job creation. Even President Ramaphosa recognizes the difference the DA makes in local government. And this is true also of the former leader of the ANC caucus in the city of Cape Town, Banele Majingo, who we welcomed into the Democratic Alliance in April. It's no wonder that so many people are migrating long distances to escape failing municipalities all around the country to live in municipalities which are governed by the Democratic Alliance. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Sompa Masiu.
31 years ago, the mothers and fathers of our democracy founded a democratic South African on the basis of Ubuntu philosophy. Philosophy that recognized that one humanity is incomplete unless others is affirmed. Many of us think of this philosophy as this philosophy only recognition on the other humanity. There can be a good governance without the recognition that malfeasance of corruption when committed are in fact then denying others of that important recognition of their humanity. As we reflect today on the challenges facing local government, we must be firm into saying that the failure of local governments are not just failures to government or spend resources optimally. These are failures to uphold and affirm the humanity of our people. Therefore, any discussion of eradicating corruption must not be reduced to individual or political parties. Rather, it must be responsible of all humanity. As a country, we have traveled a long way of freedom. It is not yet Uhuru. We recognize that we have done so much as government, especially as we were judged against aspirations that were sent off ourselves in the Freedom Charter. We have ensured access to electricity, access to water and land for our people. African National Congress took a decision that South Africans must take bold steps towards creating an ethical capacity development state. Such state is characterized by strong institutions that are able to withstand all sorts of challenges. As it is the state that is able to actively intervene, protect the rights, deliver service delivery to the people, and ensure individual within its employed are honest, ethical, and hold higher standard of integrity and ethics. Honorable members, amongst us, no one can claim that corruption is an issue of a certain race. Corruption is a human problem. But corruption is deeply embedded in the desire of profit-making and material wealth creating. It is the desire to be above others that create greed. Honorable members, on the 6th of June, President outlined preparation of so-called government of unity. The President addressed the GNU primary aim during Parliament opening session. These priorities are not promoted, includes growth on jobs creation, eliminate poverty and the high cost of living, and establish a capable ethnic development state. In order to monitor the implementation of these priorities, Parliament mandate on oversight, lawmaking, public participation, corporate governance, and international partnership remain critical to improving citizens' quality of life. The NCOP remained the pillar and the link that bridged the gap between citizen and parliament. In this August House, all of us must put hands on the deck in the service of toiling masses of our people. South Africa must confront the problem of a lack of trust in leadership, slow progress towards service delivery and socio-economic rights, and persist historical exclusion. South Africa has to ensure that the public sector meet the requirement of its citizens through effective and efficient service delivery. An ethical and capable state is essential, and effectively implemented government policies and remain the trust and confidence of its citizens. Talking about the skills work enforcement, honorable members, the institutionalization of the professionalization framework as enshrined in Section 195I of South African Constitution. Public service must be provided impartially, fairly, equitably, and without bias. Although public administration must reflect a country's diversity through recruitment and personnel management practice based on competence, fairness. This places a dual responsibility of public administration to promote inclusive and quality while retaining merit-based recruitment. The Auditor General, the framework comes at a time when the Auditor General flagged many municipalities with an inability to hire a candidate with the required skill set to do their job. This led many municipalities to receive qualified audit riddled with fruitless expenditure and inappropriate handling of government pairs. The Public Service Amendment Bill can professionalize public administrators who are expected to fulfill their responsibility in line with the structure's role, norms, and standards, while upholding the constitutional value principles set out in Section 195 of the Constitution of Republic of South Africa. From the inception of democracy, has introduced a multiple reform building in effective efficiency and capable government. As this case with many development countries, South Africa relies on the capacity of its employees and effectiveness of government systems to deliver our policy position program, aiming into improving the quality of our lives of our people. The Constitution Preamble Section 7.1 established the value of what could guide the government transformation of public service. This ideally prioritizes human dignity, equality, and growth on human rights and liberties and non-racial. Honorable members, corruption is a significant issue for local government, affecting resource allocation, resulting to bad public services, inefficiency, low investment, and reduced economic growth. Corruption is fueled by incentive, lack of transparency, and accountability. ANC believe that effective anti-corruption policy require multidisciplinary approach that includes governance, prevention, detection, and punishment with strong arrangement and executive support. Our view is that to create a capable development state requires creating an internal capacity within municipalities. It is said we need to insource critical services in municipalities, insource water tankering, insource security services, create a proper institutional capacity, and fuel integrate local government into the public service. This will only empower the state, but it will also save local government huge amounts of money that are spent adequately to benefit great individuals. As I conclude, honorable members of parliament, provinces and national government can support municipalities. Assist can be provided through training, technical support, capacity building, training development. The service can be monitored by both the provincial and national government. Service such as financial performance, monitoring, evaluation, and prioritizing to prevent funds and resource theft. Building internal audit capacity and strengthening the procurement system can be the municipality first line of defense against corruption and maladministration. The ANC, as the revolutionary movement, its primary task of rooting out corruption element is in our municipality to improve service delivery and transform communities, remain an uncompromised. Mababoshwe bonke ababayo imali ye-government. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable van Zyl, it's your opportunity to respond to this debate.
Thank you, House Chair. Echoing the President's roll call, allow me to do one myself, that of poor ANC outcomes. Here are some highlights among the mess. ANC-run Lekwa-Timane Municipality, a disclaimer for 3 years. ANC-run Makana Municipality, a disclaimer for 6 years. ANC-run the Sunday's River Valley Municipality, a disclaimer for 6 years. ANC-run Nketuana Municipality, another disclaimer for 6 years. ANC-run Latlu Municipality, a disclaimer for 6 years. ANC-run Ditsabotla Municipality, a disclaimer for 8 years. ANC-run Kopanong, ANC-run Masulinyana, nothing submitted to be audited. And ANC-run Maluti Apafung, also nothing submitted to audit for the past 4 years. These are but highlights, as only 16% of municipalities received a clean bill of financial health, the vast majority being DA-run. As the President has told the ANC councillors to look at DA performance, let me help direct them. Go to the DA-run West Coast with clean audits for 14 years. Go to the DA-run Overstrand in Witzenberg with clean audits for 12 years. Go to the DA-run Midvaal, Cape Agulhas and Cape Winelands with clean audits for 11 years. Go to the DA-run City of Cape Town with an infrastructure budget of 40 billion rand, while it took the ANC 2 years to fix a road. Go to the DA-run Koga with a 200 million rand road infrastructure plan. And finally, go to the DA-run Mngeni, where our mayor has already been schooling the ANC representatives on how it is done. To further educate my ANC cadre colleagues, the DA has a turbocharge plan to fix these messes that you have made. The DA will stabilize coalitions to maintain governance and remove one-seat opportunists, capacitate and professionalize public service in local governments, including ending cadre deployment, and to implement skills and lifestyle audits. We recognize local governments as the engines of growth, and we will fight to clean up all 257 municipalities in our country. Let us be honest with South Africans. Unless Parliament pushes beyond compliance and insists on real consequences, interventions will remain hollow. Political will must go further than reports in this House. The truth is that the ANC cannot and will not fix what they have broken, but there is another way. Where the DA governs, we have shown that with clean government, professional appointments, and transparent processes, municipalities can move from dysfunctional to delivering. Honourable members, the choice is simple. Continue with cadre chaos or embrace a future of turbocharged delivery. Then I wanted to say to Honourable Manye, you said that you are ready to govern. Just this week in KZN, you lost 3 VDs in Ward 64. That is the birth province of your party. Then to the Honourable Bason. Honourable Bason, I would like to know, you spoke about the PA way. I want to know what the voters in Beaufort West has done. They have actually rejected your PA way. Then to the Honourable Dereko. Honourable Dereko, the 7 mayors in the Free State that you as an ANC party has asked to resign has not done so. That is an ANC problem, not a Parliament problem. I thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. That concludes this first debate. I'll hand over to the Deputy Speaker for the rest of this mini-plenary.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable members, we will now proceed to the last item on the order paper, which is a subject for discussion in the name of Honourable S.W. Davids on the scourge of gun violence and the killing of innocent children and adults in the Cape Flats communities. The Honourable Davids. Honourable Davids, I see you on the platform. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, good. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Just want to greet all the ministers, deputy ministers, members on the platform. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I come before this House today to present challenges that is threatening our nation building and social cohesion as a community and as a country. The scourge of gun violence and the killing of innocent children and adults in the Cape Flats communities is a growing concern. Every day we are informed of more shootings and more lives lost, and we cannot continue. Gun violence in the Cape Flats is not just about crime statistics or headlines. Oh, my word, my word.
Honourable Davids. Is there a problem, Honourable Davids? Honourable members, it does seem that the Honourable Davids has a problem. Honourable Davids, are you able to proceed?
Deputy Speaker, maybe just ask her whip to check
Is she
on her.
okay?
Said, my word, something happened.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that's why I'm asking. I'm not sure whether Honourable Davids is okay. Honourable Davids, could I ask the whip of the ANC to please contact Honourable Davids so that we can make sure that she is fine? Honourable members, while we do that, I think we will proceed and we will then allow the Honourable Davids, if she is in fact able to proceed, to come in. So let us proceed with this debate. We know what the topic is, and I think we can proceed on that basis. But this is now quite concerning. And could I ask the ANC whip on the platform to please confirm with Honourable Davids and find out what the situation is. So we will now proceed to Honourable Abader.
I am here.
Please proceed, Honourable
Camera
Abader.
doesn't seem to be working. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. I just got a second device just in case. I'm sorry. Can you see me, Honourable Speaker?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Honourable Speaker, honourable members and fellow South Africans, I greet you with the universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Cape Flats bleeds daily. Children are buried before they can live. Mothers cry over coffins that are too small. Fathers stand helpless as bullets steal their sons and daughters. This is not a once-off tragedy. It is not a random crime statistic. It is an everyday reality. Every morning, families wake not to the sound of alarm clocks, but to the sound of gunfire. Every evening, children do not play outside. They run home, dodging bullets, ducking behind walls, praying to make it inside alive. Last year alone, the Western Cape recorded 4,467 murders. That is 12 people killed every single day, 12 funerals, 12 shattered families, 12 fresh graves every single day. Make that make sense, honourable members. Almost 1 in 3 of these killings are gang-related. And where are the killings worse? Not in Constantia, not in Rondebosch, and not in Claremont, and certainly not in Camps Bay. No, honourable members, the blood flows most in Nyanga, Delft, Khayelitsha, Philippi East, and Hanover Park. These police stations topped the national murder list, and in just 3 months, there were 177 gang-related killings, most of them in the Cape Flats. Think about that. In the time it takes for one school term to pass, almost 200 lives are stolen by gang bullets. Yet we are told that this is the best-run province in South Africa. The DA repeats it, the president repeats it, and this very week, this House heard it again, boasting that the Western Cape is the best-run province. Best-run province, while Hanover Park mothers bury children every weekend. Best-run province when Lavender Hill families sleep on the floor to avoid stray bullets. Best-run province when our children in Delft are shot walking to school. If this is the best, honourable members, then I shudder to think what the worst looks like. And when ministers visit, they arrive with blue light convoys, issue statements of concern, and vanish again, never to be seen, leaving the residents to die. The truth is painful. we have certainly not done enough. The DA provincial government spends over 1 billion rand every year on safety and security. Yes, you heard me correctly. I said 1 billion. Let that sink in. But how has that billion helped Hanover Park, Delft, Nyanga, Menenberg, or Khayelitsha? Not peace, not safety, certainly not dignity. SAPS is under-resourced and overwhelmed. We have 1 police officer for every 500 residents in gang-ridden areas, compared to 1 officer for every 220 people in leafy suburbs. This is not law enforcement, it is abandonment. The firearms control system has collapsed. Thousands of police-issued guns have been lost and ended up in the hands of gangsters, not stolen or lost. This is the organized criminality enabled by the very institutions meant to protect us. The so-called anti-gang unit is a PR exercise. It lacks numbers, intelligence capacity, and most importantly, trust in communities. And here lies the insult. When there is a peaceful march in support of Palestine in Cape Town, this DA-run province can suddenly find the resources to bring out the army, roll out the full police force, lock down entire streets to protect who? The Zionists who have infiltrated the Western Cape. Then they can flood the city center with uniforms and barricades. But when it comes to Hanover Park, Nyanga, Delft, or Menenberg, suddenly there are not enough boots, not enough vehicles, not enough emergencies. Is it not that the state cannot act? It is that the state has not chosen to act with the same resolve. Honorable members, behind every statistic is a story. In Bonteheerwil, Nathan, a 10-year-old boy, was walking home from a tuck shop. He had just bought a packet of chips before he could even take a bite. Crossfire erupted. Nathan never came home. His mother now keeps that unopened packet of chips on her table, a haunting reminder of the son she lost. In Hanover Park, a mother has buried 2 of her sons, both killed in separate shootings. She says, I live in a democracy, but I have less freedom than I did under apartheid. Imagine wanting to live under apartheid. At least then I knew who the enemy was. Now the bullets come from everywhere, even the police. In Menenberg, teachers begin lessons not with prayers or greetings, but with instructions. And what to do when, not if, gunfire starts. Imagine that being the normal rhythm of childhood. In Delft, teenagers are buried weekly. Young men, some barely 15, lost to gangs because they saw no other path. In Khayelitsha, community leaders speak of mothers who collect bullet casings outside their homes, sweep them like dust and carry on with life as though this nightmare is normal. These are not isolated tragedies. They are the daily rhythm of life on the Cape Flats. And honorable members, let us not pretend this violence comes from nowhere. The Cape Flats was engineered by apartheid as dumping grounds, people forcibly removed from District 6, from Claremont, from Simonstown, from Constantia, stripped of dignity and packed into overcrowded townships. 31 years into democracy, and the legacy lives on. Overcrowding, unemployment, poverty, generational trauma. When the DA and GNU-led government failed to fill the vacuum, gangs step in, offering young boys status, money, and belonging that their communities cannot. And while the poor bury their children, the rich live behind high walls and private security, pretending the violence is not their problem. This is the legacy we are dealing with, and this is why speeches alone are not enough. Honorable members, the people of the Cape Flats cannot eat speeches. They cannot live on promises. They need action. This is not a list, it is a vision. A Cape Flats where people live in dignity, not in fear. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the DA and the GNU cannot hide behind slogans. They must take accountability and responsibility. But more importantly, this House must take responsibility. Because if this is the best run province, then best for who? For Constantia and Camps Bay? Or for Nathan's mother in Bonteheerwil? For Leafy Rondebosch? Or for Hanover Park mothers digging fresh graves? We cannot reduce this crisis to statistics alone. Every life lost is a broken dream. In Philippi, families live in a war zone. In Bonteheerwil, school children must dive under desks when gunfire erupts. In Elsie's Rivier, mothers have to choose between sending their children to school or keep them safe indoors. And is indoors really a safe haven, honorable members? This is not normal. This is a humanitarian crisis happening in this DA-run province. MK Party's approach, a new dawn for the Cape Flats. Total gun reform, immediate audit of all police firearms, stricter licensing and harsher penalties for illegal possession. Establish community-based firearm tracing units with direct civilian oversight. reclaiming communities from gangs, deploy well-trained tactical units with proper intelligence support, not cosmetic deployments, break the link between police corruption and gangs through an independent anti-gang corruption commission, use lifestyle audits on known gang bosses and their political protectors, youth and opportunity programs. Violence is born from despair. We propose youth hubs with sports, skills training, and entrepreneurship support in every Cape Flats township. Housing and land reform. Gangs thrive in overcrowded informal settlements where despair is weaponized. The MK Party will fast-track housing delivery, upgrade informal settlements, and ensure safe public spaces so communities can breathe again. Community empowerment. Establish people safety forums with real decision-making power over local policing priorities. Train and support community street committees and neighborhood watchers with resources, not just empty promises. The truth is the Cape Flats have been left behind, but it does not have to stay this way. The MK Party will do what the DA has failed to do, confront gangs with the full power of the state, protect communities with real safety, not empty promises, replace guns with jobs, despair with dignity, and fear with hope. Honorable members, the Cape Flats deserves life, not death, hope, not despair, justice, not betrayal. And I end with this, Honorable Speaker. The time for lip service is over. As MK Party, let us be clear. The Cape Flats is not crying for sympathy, it is demanding justice. Every child killed is proof that the state is complicit through negligence. Every gangster armed with a state-issued gun is proof of corruption in high places. If this House continues to debate while families continue to die, then we are not Parliament, we are spectators to slaughter. MK Party will not accept that we will fight alongside the people of the Cape Flats until their streets echo with bullets, but with the laughter of children who deserve to grow up in safety and dignity. The people of the Cape Flats deserve peace, not tomorrow, not next year, but now. Do not tell the mothers of the Cape Flats that this is the best run province by the DA. Tell them why they must keep burying their children, because this DA-run province has failed them. Thank you.
The Honourable Muela.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Members, Cape Town is one of the most violent cities in one of the most violent countries in the world. The murder rate in South Africa is behind only Jamaica, according to data from the UN Office of Drugs and Crime. Cape Town is the second highest murder rate of any municipality in country, lagging just behind Nelson Mandela Bay. These statistics paint a sobering picture of crime in the Republic. According to statistics from Gun-Free South Africa, the violence in the Cape Flats has reached alarming proportions. Over 2,000 people have been shot since January 2025, averaging more than 13 shootings per day. 1,068 members were recorded in the first quarter of 2025 alone, with over 55% involving firearms. Between 2020 and now, there have been 3,777 gang-related murders in the province, most heavily concentrated in the Cape Flats. Honorable Speaker, the ANC manifesto is clear. It commits us to reducing violent crime by 50% over the next 5 years. Capacitate police stations, forensic units, prosecution services, expand violence prevention programs, particularly those that protect women and children, improve crime intelligence and partnership with communities. When analyzing the violent scourge of gun proliferation and gun culture plaguing our society, it is important that we look at the root causes so as to make the accurate diagnosis of the challenge we are confronted with. To place the situation of Cape Town Flats in context, one has to look into the history of the region, race relations, and deep inequalities that exist. Though multiple factors can be attributed to the growing concern, including poverty, unemployment, alcohol and drug abuse, and the existence of gangs in the communities, can be attributed to the growing concern, it is also important to look into socialization of guns and gun culture in our societies. Another problem we cannot ignore is the recruitment of young boys into gangsterism and the fake authority that these gangs command in their communities. Young men are socialized into believing that guns are status of control and respect. Many youth are locked in correctional facilities like Postmo prison for gang-related activities which include use of firearms and violent murder, attempted murder, and robbery. Crime undermines the service delivery and government legitimacy. When criminals act with impunity and it becomes apparent that there is no clear plan or strategy to minimize the crime, people naturally lose trust in our ability to govern. This comes against an already weakened foundation of the trust ordinary citizens have in the SAPS and the other law enforcement institutions. The Honorable Speaker Davis, when introducing this debate, has highlighted the snapshot of the killings taking place daily in the Cape Flats. We are concerned about the community's life in fear, and it does not end there. School children are also affected. Schools are no longer safe places for both learners and educators. In June this year, we witnessed the launch of Operation Chanela 2 in the Western Cape, which was deliberate escalation of police effort to respond to growing crime and trend in the Western Cape. When Operation Chanela has registered some progress in the removal of firearms circulating in the communities, it has not yet resolved the problem of gun violence in the Cape Flats. Though we are encouraged by the high number of arrests the operation is able to affect, we remain worried about the number of successful prosecution and conviction rates from these arrests. Honorable Speaker and members, in line with our policy priority of keeping our homes and streets safe, we employ that the South African Police Service continue to work on strategies for a multi-sectoral approach to the prevalence of gangsterism, drug trade, and gang violence that is plaguing the Cape Flats through the acknowledgement of the presence of police and police stations. In the Cape Flats, this is not enough. We need the deployment of more specialized units to respond to the dangerous gangsterism and criminal networks. Police capacity alone may not suffice to counter all these acts of criminality. We note the need for the strengthened intelligence service and partnership with community forums in the fight against crime. A year ago, we celebrated that we thought would be a worthwhile intervention between the national and provincial policing when the national government signed the Memorandum of Understanding for Collaborative Policing with the Western Cape Provincial Government. A year later, we stand and wonder what the result those Memorandum of Understanding have yielded in what seems to be an increasing violent climate. The people of South Africa are tired of singing ceremonies that bear no results. Every time there is a problem, a new document is signed, not anymore, Honorable Member. The people of South Africa want a responsive government. They want to see change actively taking place in their communities. People want to feel safe and protected, and it's up to this SAPS whether it wants to retain its legitimacy and trust with the people of South Africa. I suppose not all is not lost in the fight against violent crime. Madam Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to welcome the bills and legislation that the SAPS is prioritizing to respond to the issues of gun violence. As the ANC, we noted and welcome the progress that has been made with the Firearms Control Act. We note and welcome the progress with the SIRA Amendment Act. We are confident that these amendments and the pieces of legislation will find priority to be signed into law. We call for action as the ANC. From the ANC, we call for professionalized police service, capacity in our courts, and accelerated reforms of the criminal justice system. We call on the South African police services to take decisive action to recover illegally held guns. We encourage the police to do more stop search and seizures and crime intelligence-led operations to recover legal firearms in the Cape Flats. We call on the police also to continue the call and campaign for the voluntary surrender of illegal firearms without prosecution, honorable members. The South African Police Services must maintain a reliable firearm register. The police must have knowledge of how many guns are in circulation around the country, and most particularly in the Cape Flats. As I conclude, honorable members, this battle will be tough, but it's not the battle that we can afford to lose. Let's put our head on the block and make sure that South Africa is safe. I thank you, honorable members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Muela. The next speaker is the Honorable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The Democratic Alliance rises today with a very heavy heart. The scourge of gun violence and the killing of innocent children and adults in the Cape Flats is not a theoretical debate. It is a lived reality for families who go to bed to the sound of gunshots, for mothers who bury their children far too soon, and for communities who live in constant fear. The Cape Flats is a war zone. Entire communities are being held hostage by gangs, drugs, and gun violence. Parents are afraid to let their children play outside. Learners risk their lives simply walking to school. Residents are forced to live behind burglar bars and high walls because the state has failed in its most basic duty to keep them safe. Honorable Speaker, allow me to tell you about 5-year-old Amir Abrams from Manenberg. Earlier this year, stray bullets from gang crossfire tore through his community. Amir was struck while asleep in his own home, the very place that should have been his refuge. He was rushed to hospital, where doctors tried to save him, but his injuries were far too severe. His father described the last moments, saying how panic, confusion, and fear gripped the community. Amir had done nothing wrong. He was simply a child asleep, resting quietly in his home, his primary place of safety, when a bullet shattered his family's peace, robbed Amir of his future and a community of hope. His family, his community were left shattered. The pain is immeasurable. Amir had nothing to do with crime, and yet his life was snatched away because the mechanisms that should protect him, law enforcement, community safety, public policy, had failed him and his family. This is not an isolated story, Speaker. It is one of far too many. From Amir Abrams to Zachariah Noble, Melopulu Tsaka, Valentino Grooteki, Jamil Grantham van Reenen, Zario Johnson, and baby Muxine Isaacs. These are not just names on paper. They are loved ones. Every single life lost to gun violence represents a devastating failure of the state. It is not a new crisis. For years, the DA has been warning that the SAPS is overstretched, under-resourced, and simply unable to keep pace with the sophisticated networks of organized crime operating within our communities. Even the acting Minister of Police has admitted that the SAPS has no real plan to deal with the scourge of violent crime. This is not just admission of failure, it is an admission that the national government has given up on the people of the Cape Flats. Meanwhile, communities bleed. Women are targeted, families are broken, small businesses are driven out, and entire generations grow up with trauma as their daily reality. Honorable Speaker, it is also important to recognize that crime does not exist in isolation. Gangs and gun violence thrive where hopelessness thrives. They thrive where unemployment is sky high, where young people have no opportunities, and where drugs fill the vacuum left by failed social development and poor economic growth. That is why the DA has always said, fixing the economy is part of fixing crime. By turbocharging our economy, we can create jobs, restore dignity, and cut off the lifeblood of gangsterism that preys on the desperation of young people. But, Speaker, there is an urgent and practical step that government must take if we are to save the Cape Flats from this nightmare, and that is the devolution of policing powers. The truth is simple. The SAPS cannot effectively police every province from Pretoria. The centralized command structure is broken. Provinces and metros are closest to the communities and best placed to respond to their unique safety needs. Here in the Western Cape, under a DA government, we have shown what is possible. The deployment of the LEAP officers in hotspot areas have helped reduce crime where SAPS have failed, but this is only scratching the surface. Imagine what could be achieved if provinces had full control over their policing budgets, recruitment and strategy. Imagine a police service that is locally managed, community-focused and accountable to the people it serves. Instead, the ANC continues to block every attempted reform, choosing to protect its power in Pretoria rather than protect communities of the Cape Flats. On Tuesday, 16 September, desperate mothers from Overcome Heights, an informal settlement the ANC itself created in 2006, chained themselves to the gates of Parliament. They were not there because of politics. They were there because their children are being buried too soon, because their streets echo with gunfire instead of laughter, and because they've been left with no other way to be heard. Are these the lengths that mothers must go to by chaining themselves to the gates of Parliament just to beg for justice and safety for our children? Their cry is one of anguish, but also damning indictment of a government that has failed them. That is why the DA will continue to push for legal reform to devolve policing powers to provinces, as is in the case of many functional democracies all across the world. Honourable Speaker, we cannot debate this issue without also demanding accountability. Where are the specialized anti-gang units that were promised time and again? Why are detectives carrying caseloads 3 times higher than what is sustainable? Why are SAPS firearms disappearing from storerooms only to end up in the hands of these very criminals? And why is the National Prosecuting Authority not better resourced to ensure that arrests translate into convictions? These are the real failures that perpetuate the cycle of violence. Communities see criminals being arrested today and back on the streets tomorrow. They see police stations understaffed and under-resourced, detectives overburdened, and crime intelligence virtually non-existent, and they lose faith. That is the most dangerous cost of all, the erosion of trust between communities and the state. Honourable Speaker, the DA's message is clear. The bloodshed on the Cape Flats can never be normalised. We cannot continue to hold prayer vigils and candlelight marches while waiting for an ANC government to find a plan. Lives are at stake, families are at stake, and the future of our young people is at stake. There is no more time for promises. The DA calls for the urgent devolution of policing powers to capable provinces and metros, the resourcing and expansion of specialized anti-gang and anti-gun units, stronger partnerships between police, provincial government, community, policing forums and neighborhood watches, and an economic strategy that tackles poverty and unemployment, because crime thrives where hopelessness reigns. Honourable Speaker, the people of the Cape Flats deserve more than excuses. They deserve to live in safety. They deserve a national government that acts and fights for them, not one that makes excuses. The DA will continue to stand with these communities, and we will not stop fighting until every child can walk to school without fear safely, every mother can raise her family in safety, and every resident can live free from the scourge of gun and drug violence. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. I do see that the Honourable Davids has been able to join us again. Honourable Davids, I trust that everything is okay on your side. We were quite concerned
yes,
when you just suddenly
left. Sorry, Deputy Speaker, it's just that my gadgets, all of them just locked out. It couldn't get into the Zoom again, so I have assistance now.
Okay, now I'm very relieved that that was the problem and not something more serious. So, Honourable Davids, you are welcome to start your speech again.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and also again, welcome to everyone. I'm just going to switch off the video now. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I come before this House today to present challenges that is threatening our nation building and social cohesion as a community and as a country. The scourge of gun violence and the killing of innocent children and adults in the Cape Flats community is a growing concern. Every day we are informed of more shootings, more lives lost, and we cannot continue. Gun violence in the Cape Flats is not just about crime statistics or headlines. It's about human lives. It's about children unable to play safely in the streets. It's about families torn apart by grief. It's about communities living under the constant threat of stray bullets and turf wars. And it's about the city struggling to heal from wounds that are still being inflicted daily. In the State of the Nation address, the President spoke of the need for a safer South Africa where communities are free from fear and where young people have the opportunity to thrive. Yet for many in the Cape Flats, safety is still a distant dream. Children walk to schools under the shadow of gang violence. Communities are held hostage by a culture of violence that has become entrenched, normalized, and deeply tragic. This crisis, however, does not exist in a vacuum. It must be understood within the broader framework of our commitments under the African Union Agenda 2063 and the National Development Plan 2030. The African Agenda 2063 commit African leaders and states to silence the guns by promoting conflict prevention, good governance, and inclusive development. It further envision an African free from all form of violence. South Africa's National Development Plan also set out a clear target by 2030. We must have a society where people feel safe and have no fear of crime. It prioritizes effective policing, community participation, social cohesion, and the eradication of inequality. All key elements for preventing violence. Yet the daily reality in the Cape Flats represents a failure to realize these priorities. Honorable members, when guns dictate who controls the streets, who runs a business, who lives or dies, we are fundamentally undermining the African Union's vision of a peaceful, prosperous Africa. The Cape Flats, once shaped by the brutal policies of forced removals under apartheid, hear me clearly, DA, under apartheid, have long borne the life brand of social and economic exclusion. Decades later, communities here are still trapped in circles of poverty, unemployment, inadequate public services, and systematic neglect. It is in this environment that gangs have taken root, fueled by inequality, desperation, and a flourishing illegal firearms trade. Every day we hear of the gruesome killings taking place in the Cape Flats. In June, it was reported that 4 school children in uniform has been gunned down in a space of 30 days. Mass shootings in the Europe informal settlements in Gugulethu just this week. It does appear that the Cape Flats in Cape Town are under siege of all these mass shootings occurring almost on a daily basis. In Kraaifontein last week, around 12 people were gunned down in that area. 6 people were shot and killed in one incident. 3 people were murdered the next day and 3 more over the weekend. The city of Cape Town shot spotter system has recorded more than 300 gunshots were detected over the Gugulethu area last month. 350 in Hernova Park, Menenberg, Levendale, and Nyanga this month alone. Community members live in constant fear of gangs and violence because they don't know when the shooting will start and when it will end. 95% of this shooting walk away without consequences, zero conviction. The most recent and shocking revelation, which will soon become a trend if not managed with urgency, is the deliberated undermining of law enforcement institutions, gangsters, and gun owners in the Cape Flats. We have seen on the news 2 cases of firing being opened during a court proceeding and no sight while attending trial. The communities report multiple incidents of gun intimidation in the presence of law enforcement, even at police stations. The reason for sponsoring this motion, honorable members and Deputy Chief Speaker, is in this house today is because violence, especially gun violence in the Cape Flats, has reached a scale and intensity that undermines our collective progress as a country and demands national attention. It is important that this matter is elevated to this parliament to give a voice to what seems to be marginalized communities in the Cape Flats. It is to center the problems on gun control and illicit firearms on the agenda of the peace and security in the Republic. It is to call for immediate and specialized intervention for the development of resources, increased oversight, and accountability. To call for decisive actions against the proliferation of illegal firearms and ammunition. It is our belief and stance in the ANC that the building of a peaceful and stable democracy in South Africa is hampered by the excessive prevalence of guns, both licensed and unlicensed, in the hands of citizens. That this is a legacy of the conflict of the past and the lawlessness is gendered, as well as the lack of confidence in the state security services, and therefore resolve as part of the campaign to demilitarize South African society, to campaign for strong action against perpetrators of violence crimes, to publicly campaign against the carrying of weapons in public gatherings, to campaign to change South Africa's attitudes to gun possession, and to campaign against a culture which encourages children to glorify violence and ownership of guns. Honorable members, matters of community safety cut across party lines. When there's a scourge of violence taking place in a community, it's not an ANC-DA problem. It's a problem that requires all of us as lawmakers to revisit the laws, prioritize the matters on the national agenda, and conduct oversight to ensure that these matters are receiving attention. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Davids. We now move on to Honourable Mailola.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Greetings to honourable members. As Speaker, the Cape Flats is a place where children are socialized into deadly violence at a very young age. It is a place where death sits comfortably side by side with life, and where social conditions themselves make it difficult to make a qualitative distinction between death and life. Take, for example, what happened in Kraaifontein last Monday. 3 women who were going on with their lives in their death-bound community were suddenly shot dead. Their ages 19, 24, and 25. At the prime of what should be their lives in a normal society. But in this society that has normalized dying amongst Black people, their deaths were not aberration, but part of a social existence in the Cape Flats. About 10 minutes after the women mentioned above were killed, 2 others in the same area were shot to their head while in their bedroom and also died. A few days before that, on the 5th of September 2025, in a place that should be the center of justice in that community, at the Athlone Magistrate Court, a man was shot dead as he walked out of the court. This, Deputy Speaker, is just a snippet of the gravity of the violence faced by the people of the Cape Flats in a supposedly best-run municipality in the country. It doesn't really matter where you are. Death can easily replace life in your bedroom, in court, at a place of entertainment, and even in church. That is why Cape Town has the 60th highest murder rate in the whole wide world. A conglomeration of social factors, political neglect, and a deliberate dehumanization of Black communities has led to this. Coupled with these social factors, a complete absence of crime prevention plan by the police, and more insidiously, the capturing of the police by criminal elements, as it has now become publicly apparent at the Madlanga Commission. At the center of this, honorable members, is the fact that the victims of these crimes are Black. These crimes are state-sanctioned and a product of unchallenged devaluation of criminalization population. In this instant, a baseline is drawn by those who lead the state. On the other side of the lines are those considered full human beings, with attended attention and service granted to them. And on the other side of the Abesa line are Black people who deserve no proper policing service, no proper health provision, no proper education facilities. A dramatic shift is needed. It should not be difficult to nip at the bud the proliferation of the protection fee record, which is at the center of the present shooting spree in the Cape Flats. Intelligent-led policing can easily read this area of this crime. Communities know who the ringleaders of these gangs are. The police know them too, but the police are deep in the pockets of the gangs. We know the police station at Lower Cross Road is run by the agents of the thugs, for instance, and that those who report criminality in their communities are immediately at risk because the police themselves are informants for these thugs. It is for this reason that upright policemen like Carl Kinner were killed, because these police themselves are either thugs or are assisting thugs in the commission of crimes. The logical outcome of the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee process must be an honest and a deliberate attempt to completely restructure the police, rid it of the elements, and free our people from the strangles of crime. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. And the next speaker is the Honourable Tebekulu.
Yes. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The IFP welcomes the debate and stands in solidarity with the people of the of the Cape Flats, who are enduring a relentless wave of gun violence each and every week. According to the UN Office for Drugs and Crime, South Africa's murder rate of 45 per 100 is the second highest for countries that publish crime data. These statistics surpass war zone deaths. This unbelievable state of affairs cannot be left unattended, unaddressed. I'm sorry. Our law enforcement must devise strategies to preserve the precious gift of life. Q4 crime statistics reveal that either this year, more than 1,000 people were murdered in the Western Cape. 50% of these murderers involved the use of firearms. Alarmingly, the province is also home to 5 of the top 10 murder stations nationally, which is Delft, Nyanga, Philippi East, Kraaifontein, and the others. This is not just a matter of statistics. It is a lived reality. Between August and September, the Cape Flats witnessed an escalation in gang-related violence and tragedies. These tragedies form part of a broader pattern of unchecked violence that spares no one, not even children. Progress has been made in some instances, yet it remains reactive rather than preventive. Arrest and firearm seizures alone do not disrupt the systemic roots of gang activity, nor do they provide adequate protection to vulnerable communities. Furthermore, we should also be mindful of the role played by corrupt SAPS officers in providing firearms to these criminal elements for their own benefit, as well as the allegations of illegal firearms flooding our countries from neighboring countries. Therefore, the IFP calls on the department to ensure that decisive plans are in place to address this. The structural causes of this crisis cannot be ignored. In many Cape Flats communities, youth faced joblessness with legal access to skills training or safe recreational spaces. These conditions leave the young people vulnerable to gang recruitment, perpetuating a cycle of violence. The IFP has consistently highlighted that unemployment, poverty, and lack of education create fertile ground for criminal activities. As a result, the IFP reaffirms its stance to prioritize early childhood development programs to address this crisis at the core. Secondly, we call for closer cooperation between SAPS, crime intelligence, and SNDF in high crime areas. We believe that a lack of SAPS resources and specialized skills will rather render operations futile if not sufficiently supported by the military. Given South Africa's grim distinction as one of the murder capitals of the world, exhibiting statistics akin to war zones, this crisis must be approached with the agency and resources that a war typical demands. However, the mere presence of military deployment is not sufficient. The IFP assessed that strategic use of military must be integrated to high-level crime-fighting efforts in the Cape Flats to yield comprehensive results. The collaboration approach is essential to safeguard the lives of our parents, siblings, and children, thus reaffirm the state's commitment to their safety and the restoration of peace in our community. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Tebekulu. The next speaker on my list I have is the Honourable Van Wyk, but I do not see him on the platform. Is there another speaker from the PA?
Speaker,
Oh,
I
Van
am
Wyk.
present.
Okay, then you are. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. Honorable Speaker, greetings to all the members on the platform. The Patriotic Alliance rises today with a heavy heart and a firm voice. The blood of our children stains the streets of the Cape Flats. The cries of our mothers echo through Menenberg, Delft, Kraaifontein, Mitchell's Plain, and Hangover Park. And yet the silence from national leadership is deafening. We are not here to moan only. We are here to demand action. The crisis, a war zone in our communities, gun violence in the Cape Flats is no longer a crime statistic. It's a humanitarian emergency. Children are being gunned down in crossfire. Schools are closing early due to gang threats. Families live in fear while gangsters roam freely with stolen firearms. This is not just a policing failure. It's a moral collapse, a constitutional betrayal, and a political abandonment. The Patriotic Alliance believes in zero tolerance for violent crime. We call for the reintroduction of the death penalty for heinous crimes, mandatory national service for unemployed youth to instill discipline and offer alternatives to gangsterism. Community-led policing with trained local patrollers and CPF members to be empowered to act. Special probes in stolen firearms and the circulation of illegal weapons. We do not believe in soft solutions for hard problems. We believe in restoring order, protecting the innocent, and punishing the guilty. The role of the government, act or step aside. Where is the precedent when our children are dying? Why has there been no declaration of a state of emergency? Why are the communities left to fend for themselves? Why a politician debate ideology like today? If government cannot protect our citizens, then it must empower communities to protect themselves without fear or prosecution for defending their families. The PA calls on immediate deployment to tactical units to red zones, gun amnesty and buyback programs to remove illegal firearms, restorative justice and trauma counseling for effective families, investment in youth centers, sports, and vocational training to break the cycle of violence. We must stop treating the Cape Flats as a forgotten corner of South Africa. It is the beating heart of our resilience. It deserves justice. In conclusion, the Patriotic Alliance does not fear the growth. We do not fear the gangs. We do not fear the silence of the state. We fear only the loss of another innocent life. Let us act now. Let us protect our children. Let us restore dignity to the Cape Flats. Ons baie dankie.
The next speaker is the Honourable Wessels.
Dankie agbare adjunct speaker. Adjunct speaker, bende geweld is en moet hanteer word as prioriteitsmisdaad. Mense ly en dit is nie slegs statistiek nie, soos wat baie sprekers reeds gesê het. Die feit van die saak is dat die probleem veel erger is as net dat die polisie nie 'n plan het om hierdie bende geweld te hanteer nie, soos wat die minister erken het nie. Maar die probleem is ook dat die polisie in baie gevalle betrokke is, dat bendeleiers die polisie geïnfiltreer het, maar nie slegs die polisie nie, ook korrektiewe dienste, ook aanklaers en ander fasette binne in hierdie sfeer wat veronderstel is om daar te wees, om te polisieer en om toe te sien dat die reg gedien word, is betrokke en is geïnfiltreer. Hier is 'n spesialisteenheid nodig wat multidissiplinêr optree, wat in belang van die gemeenskap optree om te sorg dat daar werklike gevolge is, dat daar arrestasies plaasvind, dat daar voorkoming plaasvind, maar ook dat daar suksesvolle vervolging van gearresteerdes plaasvind en dan ook dat hierdie bende geweld en hierdie aktiwiteite nie vanuit ons korrektiewe fasiliteite gereël word, want dis wat tans gebeur. En daarom is daar baie meer nodig. Die polisie het nie die voldoende hulpbronne om in hierdie krisis werklik te voldoen en op te tree om voorkomend op te tree. Ons moet as die parlement baie meer doen as net praat oor hierdie aangeleentheid. Die gemeenskap ly, onskuldige slagoffers word met dwaalkoele geskiet wanneer hulle net by 'n skool staan. Ons kan dit nie langer toelaat nie. Ons kan nie net ander pad kyk nie. Daar moet opgetree word en daar moet veral opgetree word teen die wat betrokke is, wat eintlik daar moet wees om die gemeenskap te beveilig en om toe te sien dat reg geskied, wat betrokke is en medepligtig is tot hierdie misdrywe, hierdie moorde moet aan die pen ry. En daar moet 'n ondersoek gedoen word, 'n hoë vlak ondersoek gedoen word en al die praat van spesialisteenhede kan nie net praat wees nie, dit moet op die been gebring word. Adjunkt Speaker, ek het al gewonder as die hoogopgeleide presidensiële beskermingseenheid vir net 'n maand aan die Kaapse vlakte ontplooi sal word, of daar nie ook 'n verskil sal wees. Maar tans benut ons, met respek gesê, die mees gespesialiseerde en opgeleide polisieamptenare om politici op te pas, eerder as om die gemeenskap op te pas. Dit is 'n skande. Ek dank.
Our next speaker is the Honourable James.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Let me remind this House that South Africa is a country worth fighting for, and the Cape Flats forms part of that worthy fight. The aftermath of the Group Areas Act is still being seen and felt daily. For more than 30 years, the cries of gang-related shootings have fallen on deaf ears. Today, over 44,000 children are in places of safety in this country. The majority are from the Cape Flats. Just yesterday, I visited one of these homes where 5 siblings were rescued. They had slept on wet mattresses, been locked in a honeyhok, sold for sexual favors by the parents that's on drugs, and abandoned with bottles full of alcohol, spirits. This is the lived reality of children born into a cycle of gang violence and neglect. How many more? Today in this House, I must ask, how many more children, how many more debates, how many more imbizos, how many more motions until government acts? The Cape Flats is a war zone. Bullet casings litter the streets where there should be teaching and education and learning. We saw this week how children are laying on their tummies and their teachers are playing music just to keep them calm while the bullets are hailing and going over schools. Where there should be safety, there's constant fear and trauma. Everyone has spoken. People have taken what I wanted to say in this contribution this morning. Honorable Shikling mentioned Amir and Valentino, and many others mentioned other names. 2-year-old Ismeen Franke was gunned down while playing with her friends. 2-month-old Muhsin Isaacs was killed in his mother's home. 5-year-old Molukulu Shaka was shot dead on her way to the shop. Even in our homes, we have said this before, we are not safe. Between January and March this year, 9 out of 10 gang-related murders in South Africa occurred in the Western Cape, the Cape Flats. This month, we have already seen over 70, this is just what I've picked up from the various groups, over 70 killings right here. Almost half of South Africa's drug-related crimes are in this province, the well-run province, concentrated in the Cape Flats. Honourable members, this is not a policing crisis alone. This is a national emergency. Again, I say 44,000 children in places of safety. Many will soon turn 18 and be spat out by the system. They are sleeping under the bridges, hooked on drugs and preyed on by gangs. And what about those trapped in the Pela Posa, children as young as 10, lost to education, abandoned by their family and ignored by the state, ignored by the Department of Education? What would it take for us to reclaim our streets, to restore hope and to break the cycle? Last week, I wrote to the president, personally handed him a letter reminding him that he swore an oath to defend the lives and dignity of all South Africans. The mothers and fathers of the Cape Flats are crying for help continuously. The time for empty embezos and symbolic speeches are over. As Action SA today, again, we beg, we plead, we say, we ask, declare a state of emergency, deploy our intelligence-driven services street by street, send them in to assist our overwhelmed police, mobilize DSD and education to rescue children and prevent a new generation from being lost, establish special courts to fast-track services, repurpose our skills budget to give the youth of the Cape Flats a future beyond poverty. In the week, we saw the mothers who chained themselves to the gates of Parliament. When we called the Western Cape Police Commissioner, he said, they know where I am, let them come to me, instead of sending someone to speak to them. Cry, my beloved Cape Flats, but let us fight for a new dawn where our children grow up in safety, where communities can thrive, and where gangsterism no longer defines our people's lives. I plead with you, let us act, and let us act now. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable James. I will now invite the Honourable Acting Minister of Police.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker and members. Today I address the House on the crisis of gang violence in the Western Cape, a crisis that is tearing our communities apart, extinguishing lives, and undermining hope for the future among our people. This crisis demands our full attention, our compassion, and our collective action. Members, I was in Cape Town for the whole of last week to directly engage with communities who have been affected by this violence. I spoke to people living in some of the worst affected areas like Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, and Mfuleni about their experiences and concerns. Included were community leaders, representatives of various community-based groups and faith-based organizations that are on the front line of trying to address gang violence and provide support to its victims. I heard firsthand of how gang violence affects their daily lives and the horrors that they are being subjected to. This morning, I will describe this crisis clearly, then frame it in moral and social terms that compel us to act, and finally set out the stance of the African National Congress on how we must respond together, decisively, and justly. Firstly, what is unfolding in parts of the Western Cape is a scourge of gang violence that no society committed to dignity and human rights can accept. Sudden and devastating shootings, targeted assassinations, recruitment of children to commit criminal acts, extortion of small businesses, and public places being transformed into zones controlled by criminal networks. Every murder, every attack, every shattered home reverberates far beyond the immediate victim and their loved ones. It serves to weaken the social fabric of our communities and undermines the democratic promise of our nation as a whole. During this year, we have seen gang violence in the Western Cape reaching truly alarming levels. People are being shot and killed or seriously injured on a daily basis. Over the past 6 months, that is between April and September this year, The South African Police Service have already recorded 490 gang-related murders, period of 6 months. During this time, almost 120 young people under the age of 18 were shot, resulting in 23 deaths. Children under the age of 14 accounted for 5 of these deaths, and 41 were wounded. Since August, murders have increased by 18% compared to the same period last year. This is completely unacceptable and cannot go on. Over 70% of the gang murders in the Western Cape Province take place in 13 of the 13 policing districts. Mitchells Plain, Bishop Lavis, Ravensmead, Elsie's River, Delft, Philippi, Manenberg, Lentegeur, Grassy Park, Atlantis, Klein Vlei, Steenberg, and Musenberg. The numbers I referred to above do not capture the human toll. The mothers who no longer allow their children to play outside, the entrepreneurs who leave the area or close their businesses early in fear of extortion, the learners who cannot consistently attend school, the community organizations that struggle to hold safe and nurturing spaces. These are not isolated incidents. They form part of a pattern of harm that traces back through decades of structural inequalities, fractured social services, and a criminal economy that preys on desperation. However, in recent years, we have seen notable shifts in the nature of these gangs and the way they operate. Most worryingly, young people are being recruited into gangs at ever earlier ages, condemning them to a life of crime, likely cut short by imprisonment or death. Moreover, the gangs are increasingly becoming linked to national and transnational organized crime networks that are involved in a range of illicit activities. While long linked to the dealing of drugs, illegal gambling, and the nightlife economy of Cape Town, they have spread to an ever wider range of criminal activities. They are growing their tentacles across the country and increasingly planning and driving their criminal activities from behind prison walls. This, while the gang bosses and their associates become increasingly richer and more powerful. This enables them to infiltrate government procurement processes, hijack infrastructure projects aimed at improving the lives of communities, and even starting to infest our political system. Gang violence is not merely the output of individual criminality. It is woven into social, economic, and institutional contexts. It adapts when pressured, shifting methods, territories, and recruitment. It uses poverty, marginalization, and the lack of opportunity to replenish its ranks. It thrives where government is weak, where policing fails to protect, and where justice fails to deliver. No single policy, institution, or leader can end this alone. Effectively addressing this problem requires sustained, coordinated effort across government at all levels, civil society, communities, and families. At its core, what we face is a social crisis as much as a security crisis. The existence of gang violence in our towns and townships is a litmus test for our nation's commitment to human dignity, equality, and social justice. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa enshrines the right to life, safety, and dignity for all. When children are recruited as soldiers in gang conflicts, when families live daily under the threat of violence, where survivors are deprived of justice, when those trying to fight crime and corruption are murdered, the promise of the Constitution is aborted. We must therefore approach this challenge with moral clarity. The protection of human life and dignity is not negotiable. Compassion for victims and families demands our solidarity, immediate assistance, trauma counseling, livelihood support, and a commitment to long-term healing. Courage requires confronting uncomfortable truths about the conditions that have allowed this violence to flourish: entrenched poverty, intergenerational unemployment, weak schooling outcomes, inadequate mental health services and the breakdown of social institutions that once perhaps anchored communities. Many individuals recruited into gangs are youth who have been failed by the system, by schools that did not teach them, by potential employers who turned them away, by social services that were never present. Recognizing that this context does not excuse violent acts, rather it obliges us to create alternatives. A moral response combines accountability with pathways to rehabilitation and reintegration. Perpetrators must face justice, and survivors must see justice delivered. Yet we must also open pathways for those who are willing to leave violence behind through education, skills development, mentoring, and restorative justice programs that repair harm and rebuild community trust. Social capital, the trust between neighbors, the networks of mutual support, the civic institutions that enable cooperation is eroded as fear displaces fellowship. Businesses close or leave, investments dry up, and the infrastructure of opportunity withers. Young people who should be architects of a better future are instead trapped in cycles of violence and poverty that limit aspirations and entrench victimhood. The long-term cost is not only measured in lives lost, but in squandered human potential and foregone development. We must therefore commit to a holistic response that integrates policing with prevention, prosecution with social investment, and enforcement with rehabilitation. The moral aim is twofold: to protect the innocent and vulnerable today, and to transform the conditions that will produce a safer, fairer society tomorrow. This dual aim insists we do not substitute repression for reform, nor excuse criminality with passivity. Instead, we pursue a balanced strategy, strengthen the instruments of law and order while investing in people, places, and possibilities. So what is required? Last week, I invited the National Commissioner, a number of his national commanders, the Western Cape Provincial Commissioner, and his senior commanders to participate in these discussions so that they could hear firsthand from these communities, not only about their experiences of gang violence, but also the challenges that they face with policing. I am not satisfied that the South African Police Service were on top of the situation and said so publicly, given that the murders had not only continued, but were in fact increasing. It was for this reason that I publicly stated that the plan in place was not adequate. The South African, the National Police Commissioner then presented me with a new stabilization plan, and I asked him to be specific about the deployment of additional resources and SEPS personnel in the 13 worst affected precincts. I also met with the Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winder, and the Mayor of Cape Town, Gordon Hill Lewis, to discuss the role that they could and should play in addressing the violence and poverty deficits in these areas. The parties to the GNU share collective responsibility for safety and security of the people of the Western Cape. So does government at national, provincial, and local level share responsibility. One of the immediate outcomes of those engagements was that the South African Police Service and the City of Cape Town worked together, or have agreed to work together, to identify a building which can serve as an additional police station for the people of Mfuleni. This is currently underway, and I hope to receive a report on the next week when I will be back in Cape Town. Next Tuesday, on the 23rd of September, I will be meeting, along with the National Commissioner, with the Minister of Justice, along with other entities such as the National Prosecuting Authority, IDEC, and the Asset Forfeiture Unit, amongst others, to promote a more coordinated, collaborative, and effective approach to gang violence. I will report back to the community as soon as I can report on the outcomes of these necessary engagements. The next step is to consolidate a more comprehensive plan and ensure that we together, across departments and tiers of government, target the gangs and their criminal networks more effectively. The objective is to pursue the financial and organizational structures that sustain gangs, to disrupting the trafficking routes to move illicit goods such as drugs and firearms, seizing their illicit assets, and effectively prosecuting leaders and their enablers. I will also be requesting better dedicated intelligence capability to identify the gangs, their networks and operations to guide this coordinated action. We will also be further considering how to ensure better collaboration and coordination between local enforcement and provincial and national agencies such as the Hawks, SARS, and our international partners where cross-border elements exist. I'm exploring various legal options for implementing targeted lockdowns to reduce the violence and restore some level of stability.
I wonder how are you going to fight crime?
Stability in the worst affected areas. In addition to this, I will exploring some of the following options. Reducing the proliferation of illegal firearms. Without access to firearms, the gangs will be seriously weakened. We need urgent interventions to remove firearms from gangsters and prevent further proliferation of these deadly weapons. The firearm stocks held in SAP's 13 stores in gang areas should be removed, secured safely elsewhere, and subjected to priority ballistic testing. Rigorous and regular auditing must be done on all state entities and of private security companies that hold firearm stocks. We should consider monitoring rewards for information leading to the confiscation of illegal firearms and the prosecution of those who possess or deal in illegal firearms and ammunition. Next, strengthen community policing capability. We support well-trained, well-equipped, and accountable policing that operates in partnership with communities. This includes bolstering investigative capacity to bring perpetrators to justice, improving intelligence gathering, ensuring visible patrols in high-risk areas, and strengthening community police forums that serve as a bridge between residents and law enforcement. Next, strengthen the criminal justice chain. From arrest to prosecution to conviction and sentencing, the criminal justice system must be efficient, impartial, and victim-centered. We are working towards improved forensic capability, timely prosecutions, witness protection measures, and courts that are safe and responsive to community needs. Moreover, we need to disrupt the links between gang leaders in prisons and gangs on the streets. We can achieve this through measures such as erecting cell phone blocking technology at correctional facilities and moving key gang leaders to correctional facilities outside of the province. Next, combat corruption and complicity. Corruption corrodes every effort to build safe communities and must be rooted out decisively. Where there are allegations of collusion between criminals and officials, these must be investigated thoroughly and transparently.
Thank you, Honourable Acting Minister. Thank you, Honourable Acting Minister. Your time has now expired. Yes. Thank you
very much.
We now move on to the Honourable Cameron.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I would like to just begin and add on to what the Acting Minister of Police shared last week in Mitchell's Plain and just now as well, that we are not winning the fight against gangsterism in the Cape Flats at the moment. And simply said, I don't think there is a very well structured plan currently being implemented to combat the said violence. Furthermore, Minister Kachalia declared last week that known gang kingpins should not be granted parole and that bail should not be an option for them either. These admissions are critically important because unless they are followed by action, they are not anything more than words while people continue to die. Colleagues, the scale of violence continues to spiral. I used the example last week that in the first 10 days of September alone, 34 people were murdered in the 13 gang-affected stations. In Kraaifontein last week alone, a total of 14 people were murdered. And this clearly shows us, and we all know this, I'm preaching to the choir, we're sitting with a pandemic on its own. During last week's stakeholder engagement in Mitchell's Plain, the community raised very urgent concerns about SAP's resources, from vehicles to the local criminal record centre. One of the Western Cape's criminal record centres that serves a part of the metro only has a total of 27 stations, but very rarely has more than 2 vehicles operational at a time. Currently, SAPS only has 1 canine that can be used to work narcotics for the entire metropolitan area. And this clearly shows that there's a significant operational shortage. From what we've learned over time is that there is no real operational plan at the moment, and members on the ground tell us that some of them actually feel that they are in the way because they are not getting operational instruction from a senior level of the South African Police Service to really indicate a structured approach in combating especially the kingpins of these gangs on a local level. The vacuum in crime intelligence and coordination is being exploited by organized crime. And just last week, a News 24 investigation exposed how firearms smuggled in from Namibia are finding their way into the Cape Flats gang wars. Illegal cross-border gun running is arming the very criminals responsible for the bloodshed. And without strong, capable intelligence structures and coordinated policing across borders, these syndicates will continue to outpace SAPS. Moreover, the issue of police integrity cannot be sidelined either. Last week, the DA revealed after a parliamentary question that 57 police members nationally who had been dismissed through formal disciplinary hearings for serious offences, including rape, corruption, fraud, and assault, were reinstated by provincial or divisional commissioners between 2015 and 2025, many with much lighter sanctions. Honourable Godsal and the NCOP exposed how in the Western Cape alone, the provincial commissioner overturned 17 dismissal decisions. Among those reinstated was a sergeant that was convicted in a criminal court, and he was kept in the service with only 1 month worth of suspension. A captain who assaulted a woman and a club owner whose dismissal was reduced to a written warning. Multiple officers who illegally handed over police exhibits whose dismissals were replaced with final written warnings, and an officer found guilty of fraud after selling police dockets to the public, retained on the justification that the employment relationship, and listen to this, had not irretrievably broken down. The scandal like this, or these types of scandals, undermine the efforts with regards to discipline, transparency, and rebuilding public trust. How can communities believe in the law if those sworn to enforce it are themselves protected, even after judicial and disciplinary findings against them? Let me return to the devolution question. Even with all the will in the world, SAPS does not have the capacity to win this fight alone. A territorial approach with centralized power has failed. Communities suffer because of this failure, and legislation already permits more policing powers for provinces and municipalities. The Western Cape and the City of Cape Town, local and provincial governments have shown capacity through LEAP, which is being expanded with yet another 700 officers. But LEAP remains a stopgap. It cannot replace the full authority and resources needed. Furthermore, the killing spree on the Cape Flats makes devolution not just necessary, but urgent. And the minister's admissions last week, the figures from Kraaifontein, the exposure of smuggled Namibian guns feeding our gangs, and the crooked cops kept in uniform, they all make clear that business as usual cannot continue. Honourable members, there are 4 things that need to be done. Minister of Police, we need a detailed and published stabilization plan with timelines, with intelligence head deployment, for intelligence restructuring, and for vehicle maintenance overall. Second, we must demand that known gang kingpins are denied bail and parole as per the minister's statements. Third, we must demand clarity on the status of Western Cape government and the City of Cape Town's devolution request, and if no response has been received, we must compel one. And fourth, and we must demand full accountability for those officers reinstated after dismissal decisions. and that the power of provincial and divisional commissioners to overturn dismissals be curtailed or legislated away. In closing, I want to thank the specific neighborhood watchers and the community volunteers and the good officers who still serve with integrity. They deserve a policing system that respects victims and enforces the law fairly, and that protects the public above internal politics. Until our institutions act with consistency, integrity, and courage, lives will continue to be lost and communities will continue to fear. That is unacceptable. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Cameron. I now invite the Honourable Davids to conclude and close this debate.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable members, this debate, as I said before, was never brought here to get attention or to motivate my political party, the ANC, but it's about caring. The ANC is a caring organization, so this is about caring for the communities of the Western Cape and the Cape Flats. I agree with the acting minister to say that we need to get our intelligence in order, but we also need, this crime is about also social cohesion. So we need to get all the different departments that can assist us within this that is happening in the Western Cape. Because there is gangs are using people, they're giving them money. So when the police come, the people stand up to the police. But if we can make sure that people, the Department of Social Development can come in with rehabilitation and consultation with the communities and assistance to them within the need of poverty, I think we can improve. And then we also need the Department of Justice to work with the police. We need the Department of Correctional Services because, as the minister was saying, the acting minister was saying, these crimes of the gangsters, it first starts in the prisons. And out of the prisons, they get the commands to do whatever they want to do within the communities, the gangster that is still in the communities. And then the Department of Labor is very much also important for the unemployed youth within that communities. Because if you see on all the videos and on the news, it's the youth that is running with the guns. It started now off last week. I saw when I was in Hanover Park, it started now off with children that is 9 years old that is using substance. So there, the Department of Social Development is very important. But also we had mamas that came and did a picket at the Parliament this week. And the cry is for everyone, the departments to work together to make sure that we solve the problem of them losing their children, the dropout. Even the Department of Education is of importance because of a lot of these kids drop out because they fear their lives as they go to school. So yes, Mr. Cameron of the DA, this is not the ANC failure or a national government failure. This is a Western Cape failure because we must understand that the DA is governing the Western Cape. You go into the influence areas where white people are staying, you will see security companies driving there. You stand with your car there for 5 minutes, they will come there and they will search your car. What are you doing in this area? And all of that. Why are we not doing it in the poor areas? Why are we not doing it in Menenberg, in Guguletu, in Philippi, and Khayelitsha, and all over? Why are we not only doing it when it comes to Camps Bay, when it comes to all those influential areas? And then another thing, members, is that the killing of innocent children is a killing of our families. Communities cannot live without families. Families is the important part of a community. So let us all take hands in different, whatever political party you are. If you see crime, report the crime. If you see the officials that is corrupt of the police, report them. There's an iPad that you can report them and give their names, and then they will be investigated. But let us not blame one political party for what is happening in the Cape Flats when the national government gave a memorandum of agreement, went into a memorandum of agreement with the provincial government and the mayor of Cape Town, they were supposed to take hands. We are supposed to take hands and work together to make sure that what is currently happening in our communities get stopped. The president said we want a peaceful and prosperous South Africa, and that is what the African Union also wants, a peaceful and prosperous Africa. Let us take hands and make sure that this happens in our country, in our province, the Western Cape, in all other provinces. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Davids. That then concludes the debate and the business of this virtual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary